Hey guys, welcome to Poxega. How you doing you all? In this video we are going to see, part 1 of, What If Ash Fell in Love with Serena Before Surpassing. And please do check out story named, Pokemon Amorshipping the movie, Goodbye Ash by Storymaker 2. And make sure to leave a like, share and subscribe. Let's get into the video. Winden Stadium erupted into AP. Plouse that reached the surrounding streets. The battle is over. Your winner of the World Coronation Series, Ash Ketchum, Alolan champion. Leon smiled sincerely at his knocked-out Charizard, who lay beside him. Charizard, you've done more than I could have asked, thank you. The two embraced before their roaring fans. However, far more audience members cried out in overwhelming applause for the trainer who defeated him. Across the battlefield, Ash remained still for a moment, not speaking or giving the crowd any visible reaction. We did it, we actually did it, Pikachu. Ash cried with tears in his eyes. Pika, still bruised and burned from his battle, Pikachu raced over and leapt into Ash's arms. Around him stood a Sirfetch'd, Gengar, Dragonite, Lucario, and Dracovish, who all bore similar signs of battle as Pikachu. Each cried out with similar enthusiasm and joined Ash in a warm embrace while their trainer's face appeared on the announcement board. Ash, good game, he looked up at Leon, who offered his hand while Charizard did the same for Pikachu. Ash and Pikachu immediately accepted Leon, Charizard's hands and shook them. One of the greatest I ever had, Ash said. Seeing this, Dragonite and the others eagerly did the same, shaking paws with Charizard. Both trainers and their Pokemon looked back up at the scoreboard, which showed a final ranking of Leon at number 2 and Ash at number 1. Ash took a deep breath and took in the results. He'd done it. He and his team had won the World Coronation Series. Congratulations, Ash, you earned it. Thanks, but you and the others made us earn it. Now the real challenge begins, but we're ready for it, right guys? Pikachu cried out with the others. Leon suppressed a feeling of disappointment, particularly when Nurse Joy approached with a familiar device in her hands. Congratulations, Ash, now let's heal up your Pokemon. Ash nodded and returned his Pokemon before handing their Pokeballs and Pikachu to Nurse Joy. However, as Nurse Joy activated the machine and administered a full restore potion to Pikachu, she also handed 3 other Pokeballs over to Ash. The Pokemon you requested in case you won. Arigato gozaimashita, Nurse Joy. Ash carefully held these Pokeballs and stared at them. Just give us a few minutes, and they'll be as good as new. Ash and the audience as a whole waited impatiently, with many crying out for Nurse Joy to hurry up. However, those who did found themselves quickly silenced by the furious voice of Brock, who virtually leapt out of his seat in Ash's cheering section to SCO. LD the impatient audience members for disturbing Nurse Joy. Brock, sit down. Misty sighed while dragging him back into his seat. Ash looked upon this section of the audience, flooded with familiar faces. All of his friends and traveling companions he'd made in the last 6 years since setting out from Pallet Town came to support him. First and foremost were his mother and teacher, Professor Oak. But joining them sat Brock, Tracy, and Misty. In the next row sat Ash's friends from Alola, alongside Samson Oak, Professor Kukui, Professor Burnett, and their son Lay. Kiave and Kukui looked particularly pleased that the first Alolan champion had won the World Coronation Series. The next row housed Iris, Cillian, Dawn, Trevor, Tierno, May, and Max. I can't believe Ash actually beat Leon. Max Jew, MPED up and down in his seat before May sternly sat him back down. In the next row, Go and Chloe sat with Shauna, Clemont, and Bonnie, who, like Max, virtually jumped out of her seat in glee. Bonnie, please, you're going to hurt yourself. Quote. Finally, 5 more spectators sat in the front row. On the right, Gary slowly applauded with a proud expression. To think he ended up here instead of me. I suppose it means I still have work to do. Gary said while shrugging. On the far left, Sawyer trembled and nearly dropped his pen while holding a notebook. I hope I got everything down. Al, Ain and Marin watched eagerly and nodded to Ash while. Lastly, in the middle sat none other than Serena, who held her heart with a touched expression. She and Ash met each other's gazes, but neither spoke. Both simply stared back at the other with enticing smiles and almost glittering eyes. Bonnie grinned immensely when she noticed this and elbowed Shauna, who also smirked. Maybe Ash has finally stopped being so dense. Ladies and gentlemen, the World Coronation Series has now reached its climax. Ash Ketchum, the Alolan champion, has now ranked number 1 and earned a chance for eternal fame. the opportunity to face off against the greatest Pokemon trainer in the world. Our world champion, the Pokemon Kaiser, Daniel Ryan. The audience erupted into a volcanic cheer that shook the entire stadium, with even Leon joining in. Ash steadied himself when the stadium lights all shined on a new figure approaching him. A tall man in his late 20s with an athletic build, short brown hair, and matching eyes now stood before Leon. Daniel wore a hooded black trench coat, matching pants, and an intensely competitive smile. Daniel Ryan, the Pokemon Kaiser. Where are his Pokemon? I want to see Torterra. No, for alligator. Audience members lost themselves before the world champion. Go saw Gary, Sawyer, Kiave, and the other trainers trembling slightly but cringed when he saw every GI. RL and young woman around him blush intensely with hearts for eyes. Ah, Kaiser, please see my Pokemon. No, let me take care of you. No, marry me. Can you believe them, Chloe? Go asked Chloe before noticing her smitten expression. He's here, he's really here. Go sweat dropped. Seriously. So, it'll be you then, Ash. Daniel spoke calmly but with subtle confidence behind his expression and voice. Daniel Ryan, this is an honor, no, a privilege. Ash almost bowed his head but noticed a small glisten in one of Daniel's eyes when the Kaiser looked at him. Leon took his seat and wasn't the only regional champion in attendance. Lance and Cynthia sat with him in a private box alongside Diantha and Stephen Stone, giving them an excellent view of the battle. There he is, the one who conquered all of us. Still as confident as ever. Lance scoffed, earning a smirk from Cynthia. You're just mad he made such a fool out of you. Lance's face turned slightly red. It doesn't look good for half a champion's team to get knocked out by a single Pokemon. Correction, he knocked out half your team and then decided to substitute his Tyrantrum to let his Charizard battle. Leon chuckled, earning an enraged expression from Lance. I don't want to hear it from you, Leon. It took all 6 of your team to knock out just his Feraligatr during your battle with him after the last World Coronation Series. That's one more Pokemon of his than you beat. Steven said while the others chuckled. Cynthia ignored Lance and rested her head on her hands while staring down at Daniel with a blushing smile. Let's see how much stronger you've gotten. Nurse Joy handed Ash 2 of his Pokeballs back while the audience began clapping their hands together in anticipation when Pikachu leapt onto Ash's shoulder. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Your Pokemon Kaiser, Daniel Ryan, versus the winner of the World Coronation Series, Ash Ketchum. Ash took a deep breath and waited for Daniel to take out his first Pokeball. Ash, I'm quite pleased you won the Coronation Series. Ash grinned. I'll bet you are. Technically speaking, I'm the only champion you haven't beaten. Pika. Oh Ash. Misty sighed, sweat dropping with Brock. Daniel chuckled. Yes, you are his son. Ash didn't quite catch what Daniel said and looked slightly confused. That's true, I suppose. Daniel Lawmore serious smile. After last year's World Coronation Series, Leon promised me the next time we faced off, he'd be 10 times stronger than he was before. I've always known Leon to be a man of his word. So if you manage to defeat him, then this will be the real battle I've been looking for. Ash exhaled deeply but kept smiling. We won't disappoint. Pika. Good. Let's get started then. I choose you, Torterra. The continent Pokemon shook the ground when he landed and roared. Ash had only ever seen Daniel's Pokemon on TV, and they certainly didn't disappoint. The Kaiser's Torterra looked over twice the size of even the largest Torterra Ash ever saw before. Terra, and the Kaiser has chosen his earth-shaking Torterra. Ah, Torterra, this battle is over already. Hey, watch your mouth. Misty shouted with a feral expression as she seized the young woman who'd claimed Daniel had already won by the collar of her shirt. Go, Ash. Dawn had already changed into a Cheerleading Ding outfit alongside her Piplup and Bunnery. Serena, by contrast, clasped her hands together and stared out at Ash with a determined expression of support. Ash, do your best, and go for broke. Ash took a deep breath and reached for his first Pokeball before raising it up to his and Pikachu's heads. This is it. The battle of all battles. I choose you, Infernape. Ape. Infernape lit up the STA.GE with a fiery entrance and pounded his chest. Alolan champion Ash has chosen his Infernape to counter. The audience continued their enthusiastic cheers while Ash's supporters did the same. Ah, Infernape. Excellent choice against a grass Pokemon. Trevor sighed in relief. Don't forget, this isn't just any Torterra. It's Daniel Ryan's. Brock reminded them. True. But it's also Ash's Infernape. Dawn countered. Infernape. Excellent choice. We'd have it no other way, Torterra. Terra, Ash, Pikachu, and Infernape looked slightly unsettled by Torterra's expression as if he were relieved. To face a type who had an advantage against him. Alright, focus, think everything out perfectly. Ash told himself. Dig certainly wasn't an option as Torterra undoubtedly knew Earthquake, which Ht've knocked out Infernape in a single hit if it were simply a powerful Torterra they faced. But this was Daniel's Torterra, and such a mistake might have left Infernape permanently injured. Alright, we play this smart Infernape. I don't think we'll be able to overpower him. Pikachu shouted, backing Ash up. Infernape grit his teeth and begrudgingly nodded. As much as he hated to admit it, Ash was probably right. Alright, Flamethrower. Infernape moved from place to place, unleashing not one but 3 jets of fire towards Daniel's Torterra. In particular, he aimed for the colossal grass Pokémon's legs and underside. Hoping to immobilize him, Daniel observed this carefully and smiled. Earth Power. Terra. Torterra slammed his front feet into the ground and charged forward, smashing through each flamethrower with ground power around him. Ash, Pikachu, and Infernape caught their breath when they saw all 3 flamethrowers burst apart into nothing, doing seemingly no damage to Torterra. Even more unsettling was Torterra's speed. Ash never imagined such a Pokémon of such titanic size moving at the same speed as his Infernape, yet Daniel's Torterra did just that. Infernape, use Flame Wheel, keep moving. Infernape covered himself in flames, then spun himself across the battlefield, narrowly avoiding Torterra's Earth Power. That's it, Infernape, Dawn cried, particularly as he closed the distance with Torterra and aimed for his legs. Flamethrower. Frenzy Plant. Terra. Torterra shook the ground with a series of massive spiked roots that shot up in front of the circling flames. Ash and Pikachu's eyes widened when they saw the Frenzy Plant roots bat away the fire as if it were nothing. Headlong Rush. Dodge with Flame Wheel. Infernape desperately tried to get away from Torterra, whose charge shook the entire stadium. Ash and Pikachu almost cried out to Infernape again when they noticed Daniel's eyes flash blue for a moment, with Torterra's doing the same. Nani, Pika, wait, I thought a Pokémon had to recharge after Frenzy Plant. Max yelped, not if they're strong enough. Kukui muttered. Ash, Pikachu, and the audience's hearts pounded when they saw Torterra close the distance despite several bursts from Infernape's flamethrower straight into him. Despite this, Daniel watched Ash and Infernape closely with growing interest. Particularly in the way Ash led him. No way, incredible, the Kaiser's Torterra takes on a flamethrower as if it were nothing. The announcer cried, Infernape, move to the side. Flamethrower. INF. Infernape blasted out another flamethrower and propelled himself to the side. Fire Blast. Ash threw his fist out, and Infernape roared, his eyes glowing red while jets of fire burst from his back. Ah, Infernape's going all out, Dawn cried, ha, and he's right on top of Torterra. This might just work. Gary laughed. That's it, go for broke. Serena cried. Infernape unleashed the symbol-shaped blast of fire straight into Torterra, who'd pivoted perfectly to face his opponent. However, just like before, Ash saw Daniel and Torterra's eyes flash blue together. No way, Ash almost could believe it when he saw Torterra smash through Fire Blast with headlong charge, then continue into Infernape, hitting him like a freight train and sending Infernape flying. Infernape, Pika, Ash's section gasped in horror when they saw his Pokémon land in front of him, unconscious. Infernape is unable to battle. The audience cried out in awe and delight while Ash caught his breath. Terra, Infernape. Ash knelt down beside his Pokémon and helped him up. Are you okay, Ape? Infernape saw Torchics running around his head. He'd taken many blows in his life, but that was something else entirely. And Infernape had to breathe slowly. Return. I'm very proud of you, Infernape. Ash sighed with Pikachu. Just one hit was all it took. Go stuttered. Even if it hadn't been an effective move, my guess is a single blow from that Torterra would have done it. Brock added. Ash, you better not get intimidated by this. Misty snarled. Why don't you put your water Pokémon against him then? May asked with narrowed eyes. Misty yelped and cradled her Pokeballs like a newborn child. Damn, that Torterra's a tank. Gary muttered while Sawyer trembled, unsure what to write. Serena took a deep breath but remained firm. Ash stood back up and turned back to Daniel with Pikachu. Not bad, Ash. Lance lost 2 Pokémon in half that time the last time we battled. Lance's body was set on fire, and he shook with an uncontrollable rage. What did you just say? He spoke facts. Diantha chuckled. You know what? Lance, shut up, Cynthia growled without taking her eyes off the match. Ash react, head onto his belt and took out the next Pokeball. Let's show him everything we've got. I choose you, Dragonite. Ait. Ash's Dragonite performed a barrel roll after coming out and then landed in front of his trainer with a delighted expression. Ah, he's using Dragonite, Iris beamed while holding her face. Serena, by contrast, remained cautious but still hopeful. Dragonite wasn't weak to Tor. Ares Types proved himself a capable tank throughout the World Coronation series. Still, this was undoubtedly one of the strongest Pokémon in the world he faced. Do your best, Dragonite. The performer cried. Hurricane. Dragonite. Dragonite violently thrust his wings forward and back until finally, he conjured up a thunderous hurricane that nearly knocked hundreds of people in the stands out of their seats. Ah, I can fly, Bonnie cried out in delight before Clemont and Shauna yelped, both pulling her back down. Alright, this should do some serious damage. May cheered. Look again. Elan muttered. Dig in, Terra. Ash and Pikachu grit their teeth when they saw Torterra smash all 4 feet into the ground, embedding himself into the field, and the Kaiser's Torterra endures the attack like the champion he is. We knew this would be the battle of our lives, Dragonite. Let's go Dragon Dance and Draco Meteor. Dragonite. Dragonite glowed with a violet aura and then blasted the air with a small ball of light that soon burst into a shower of dragon energy. Yes, show him the majesty of dragons. Leaf Storm. Terra. Torterra's 3 back trees lit up, then soon overwhelmed Dragonite's Hurricane and Draco Meteor with a tsunami of leaves. No way, Kiave muttered in disbelief when he saw the leaves slice apart Draco Meteor. Did you really expect anything else to happen? Gladion retorted. Ash, do something, Chloe wailed. Dragon Claw, and keep your distance. Night. Dragonite rode the wind from his own hurricane, and thanks to Dragon Dance, he was able to slash apart all of the incoming leaves. Though with immense difficulty. Keep it up, Dragonite. Daniel and his Torterra watched their opponents carefully, noting how Ash and Dragonite worked together. Terra turned back to Daniel for a moment and nodded with him. Hyper Beam. Terra. Torterra unleashed the orange beam of explosive power toward Dragonite with such pinpoint accuracy that Ash knew instantly that dodging wasn't an option. Hyper Beam. Night. Dragonite counterattacked with his own Hyper Beam, but Ash and Pikachu dreaded what they saw as a foregone conclusion. A fiery explosion enveloped the area directly above the battlefield, and moments later, Dragonite hit the ground with a thud. His eyes swirled. Dragonite is unable to battle. Oh, Ash, Delia muttered while clasping both hands together. It's not over yet, Brock tried to assure her. Dragonite. Ash and Pikachu ran out to help him up, but just like Infernape, he looked dazed beyond any other knockout. Drag. Onite held his head to make sure it was still attached. Ah, Dragonite, I'm coming. Iris nearly leapt out of her seat to try and help Dragonite, but Cillian, Dawn, and May restrained her. Gary Lou, Ked quite shaken at just how one-sided the battle was going and pictured his Pokémon suffering such losses. Impressive. I think the only stronger Dragonite I've seen belongs to Lance. Daniel said. What did you say? Wait, what? Lance looked somewhat flustered at Daniel's compliment. Look, he does respect you. Leon chuckled while patting Lance's shoulder. Iris, however, looked quite disappointed. Tedden took out her own Dragonite's Pokeball. One day, Dragonite. One day, Dragonite. Return, rest up Dragonite. You did your best. Torterra return. Sorry Ash, but I wanted to give my other Pokemon a chance too. Ash watched the titanic Torterra return, but rather than get angry, he merely grinned back. Perfect, I want to see as much of your team as possible. The audience let out exuberant cheers from Ash's spirit, and Serena barely contained a blush. Misty, Iris, May, Chloe, and Dawn all noticed this and smirked before whispering to each other in giggles. Is it true? Dawn asked. I think it is. May giggled. I need to know. Misty barely contained her laughter before all 3 young women saw Bonnie standing in front of them with perhaps the smuggest expression they'd ever seen. I happened to be an eyewitness to that particular historic event, and I can tell you, it did occur. Misty, May, Iris, and Dawn all covered their mouths and started giggling together. It's about damn time he found someone. Misty sighed in relief as she looked down at Ash like a big sister. Ash stood up confidently and reached for his next Pokeball. I won't give up now. Not ever. I choose you, Lucario. Gruu. Lucario landed in front of Ash and took a fighting stance. And Champion Ash has chosen his Lucario. Daniel nodded approvingly both at Ash's determination and his choice of Pokemon. I was wondering when you'd bring him out. I must say, though, I've watched your career. What the hell took you so long to catch a Lucario? Daniel laughed while Ash's sweat dropped with Pikachu. In hindsight, he'd also wondered this. But upon looking at Lucario again, he smiled. I was waiting for the right Lucario. Daniel slowly nodded. Good answer. I choose you, Lucario. The crowd gasped in awe when they saw the Kaiser's Lucario emerge from his Pokeball and take a fighting stance before him. Ash, Pikachu, and Lucario blinked upon seeing him up close and in person. This Lucario had red F. Where Ash's and all other Lucarios typically had blue, but this wasn't his only distinguishing characteristic. The Kaiser's Lucario had incredibly efficient muscles across his body, more so than any Ash ever saw before. However, nothing could have prepared him for his eyes. Nani, Ash, Lucario, and Pikachu looked closer and nearly lost their breath when they saw it. He's blind, Ash muttered. Gruu, blind. Cynthia covered her mouth. There'd often been suspicions that Daniel's Lucario was blind, but few ever asked him about it. Despite this, Ash remained incredibly cautious, particularly when he saw a piece of Lucarionite around the Lucario's neck. Additionally, Ash noticed a ring on each of Daniel's ring fingers with a keystone embedded into each. Gruu, Lucario cried while pointing to Ash's keystone. His trainer nodded and held the keystone up. Let's go, Mega Evolution. Ah, here it comes. Sawyer beamed when he saw Ash touch the keystone and Lucario transform into Mega Lucario. Gruu, Mega Lucario roared to an approving audience. And there you have it, folks. Champion Ash has taken this battle to the next stage. Alright, here it comes, be ready, Ash. May cried. Ash and the others watched carefully as Daniel slowly reached for one of his keystones. However, the Kaiser stopped at the last moment and smirked. No, I want to see what he can do. His Lucario smirked identically to the Kaiser. And after a deep breath, their eyes glowed blue together. Huh, he's not Mega Evolving his Lucario. Diantha cried. No, he's not. Cynthia muttered in awe. Alright, you've got him now, Ash. Don't blow it, Misty shouted while Delia breathed a sigh of relief. Huh, why wouldn't he Mega Evolve his Lucario too? Marin asked Alon, who looked slightly nervous. He must not consider it necessary. This same thought crossed Serena, Gary, and Sawyer. Be careful, Serena said. Lucario, Double Team, and Aura Sphere. Gruu, Mega Lucario split into 5 total Mega Lucarios who surrounded Daniel's Lucario and began thrusting forward with their paws in mock strikes. Each one sent out an Aura Sphere, which soon enveloped Daniel's Lucario, or rather appeared to do so. Daniel and his Lucario's eyes continued to glow blue, and the Kaiser caught Ash off guard when he began moving. Nani, Pikachu looked equally baffled upon seeing the Kaiser make a series of dodging and striking motions into the air as if he were fighting Ash's Mega Lucario. Yet it was only then that they realized that Daniel's Lucario mirrored the Kaiser's movements perfectly and at the exact same time. What is that? Gladian shouted. I have no idea, Kiave muttered in equal disbelief. Aura Bond, Ash said, more amazed than frightened. Perfectly synchronized with his trainer. The blind Lucario dodged or knocked away each incoming Aura Sphere. This is unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. Cynthia saw her own Lucario come out of his Pokeball to watch Daniel's. Gruu, Cynthia nodded. It is incredible, you're not the only one with an Aura Bond. Lucario, Force Palm. Daniel almost beamed when he saw Ash and each Mega Lucario throw their fists up together perfectly. Then, for the briefest moment, he saw their eyes flash blue together. Perfect. Gruu. Each Mega Lucario came upon Daniel's Lucario within moments, yet the blind Lucario instantly parried the real one's blow. Mirroring Daniel's masterful fighting. He knew which one was real. Cillian shouted. Of course, he's an Aura Pokemon and blind. Which means he must only see via Aura. Gary said. That's not good. Misty grunted. Gruu. Mega Lucario unleashed a fury of Force Palm blows, which Daniel's Lucario continuously blocks. Focus Punch. Ash Mega Lucario didn't even have time to react. Daniel's Lucario punched Mega Lucario's chest with a single blow that sent shockwaves across the stadium, knocking several spectators out of their chairs. Ash cried out in pain as his Aura Bond with Lucario made him feel part of the blow. Ash, Serena and Delia cried while the others gasped. The Alolan champion only experienced a fraction of what his Lucario did, yet he still staggered. Pikachu. I'm alright, Lucario. Ash and Pikachu raced over to Lucario, whose body trembled while lying across the ground with swirled eyes. Gruu. Lucario groaned, only coming to when he felt Ash's aura. Lucario, I'm sorry, Ash said, placing his arm around the aura Pokemon who looked beyond disappointed in himself. Gruu. All three looked up at Daniel's Lucario, who offered his paw to Ash's. Gruu. Ash's Lucario reluctantly accepted it and got to his feet before bowing his head respectfully. There you have it, folks. Even Champion Ash's Mega Lucario is no match for the Kaiser's base Lucario. Geez, imagine if he'd Mega Evolved him. Someone shouted. He'd have probably killed him. I'd love to see that. Another spectator laughed before seeing Misty, Bonnie, Iris, Chloe, Dawn, and Serena all surrounding him with glowing white eyes. What did you say? They all said in unison as the fan went pale. Ah, he tried to back up only to bump into Delia, who loomed over him with the same expression. Ya, Clement, Kiave, Alan, Go, and Cillian all sweat dropped while Gary laughed. Should we help? Clement asked. Why, they've got it taken care of. Gary chuckled. I meant help him. I'm not going in there. Go muttered while trembling. Ash, you're right about Lucario. I can feel your bond with him. It's unique in many ways. Arigato. Lucario return, Pikachu. Pikachu sparked his cheeks, and the audience grew animated when they saw him leap down in front of Ash. And Champion Ash Ketchum sends out his Pikachu that defeated Leon's Charizard. Pikachu, do your best. Bonnie screamed at the top of her lungs while Serena similarly held her heart upon seeing him take the field. Your Pikachu, huh, now things are really getting interesting. Let's go, Pikachu, Electro Ball. Pikachu sped across the field and unleashed 3 Electro Balls that Lucario dodged or smashed apart harmlessly with Aura Sphere. Iron Tail won't have much effect. Plus we don't want to get close. Pikachu, use Discharge and Agility. Pikachu sped around Lucario like a flash of light and let loose a wave of electricity that came for Lucario from every direction. Aura Sphere. Gruu. Lucario punched the ground and sent a repulsive aura around him, which overtook Pikachu's discharge. Focus Punch. Dodge and use Thunder. Pikachu increased his speed while readying his most powerful electric move. However, his and Ash's eyes widened when they saw Lucario pivot and spring himself straight into Pikachu, fist raised. The world seemed to slow down around Winden Stadium, and Ash could only watch with horror as Pikachu flew through the air like a cannonball. Pikachu. Ash and Serena cried together before anyone else could. Lucario. Grew. Daniel's Lucario leapt up high into the air and caught Pikachu in his paws before landing in front of Ash. Pikachu. Ash muttered, Lucario offering him back. As H's friends and mother all shouted out in terror while many in the audience cheered for Daniel's Lucario. Pikachu breathed heavily as Ash took him into his arms. Pikachu, are you okay? Pikachu forced himself to smile as Nurse Joy sprinted back onto the field and almost forcefully seized him from Ash's grasp. Ash, is Pikachu hurt? Daniel asked with sincere concern as he walked over. The match will be placed on hold as Champion Ash's Pikachu is looked at. Many now went silent, anxiously awaiting Nurse Joy's diagnosis. Pikachu will be okay. He just needs some rest and treatment. Ash and Daniel both sighed in relief alongside countless others. Thank goodness. Serena exhaled deeply. Damn right, if he'd permanently hurt Pikachu I'd have. Misty started. You'd what? Iris asked. Misty looked back down at Daniel and his Lucario, then went pale and retreated back into her seat. Be very sad. Ash, are you good to keep going? Daniel asked. Ash knew Daniel wasn't asking if he was ready to quit but rather if he was willing to continue the battle while Pikachu was looked at. Ash hesitated for a moment. Pikachu cried despite the pain. Ash smiled back at his companion and nodded. I'm good to continue. I won't give up until I'm beaten. Serena held her heart again and smiled with a fiery passion. Go Ash. Thousands echoed her cheer, earning a proud smile from Daniel. I thought so. Lucario return. Daniel slowly reached for his next Pokeball and smiled at it tenderly for a moment. Alright, Ash, I've been holding back until now. Are you ready for the real battle to begin? Only if you can handle it. Ash laughed back without the slightest hesitation. Perfect. The audience and Ash watched in anticipation as he hurled the Pokeball forward. I choose you. XXX Yu-Gi-Oh! God's anger. Growl. Daniel's Pokemon's roar alone knocked half the audience out of their seats, but his landing sent shockwaves in every direction that literally shattered dozens of windows across the stadium. There he is, the most powerful Pokemon in the world. The king of the Pokemon world, Charizard. Finally, it's him. It's really him. Ash found himself at a loss for words. He'd seen over a dozen legendary Pokemon in his life, from Mew, Latias, the legendary birds, Dialga, Palkia, Xerneas and Yveltal, and more. Yet somehow, the Charizard before him seemed to surpass them all. He was no longer an ordinary Charizard, appearing over twice the size of even the greatest Charizard Ash ever encountered, including Leon's with black skin and a green chest, wing membrane, tail flame. Additionally, his features, including the claws, muscle mass, wings, fangs, and flames, all looked enhanced, almost as if he were already mega-evolved. I can't believe I'm seeing Daniel Ryan's Charizard. He's magnificent. The other champions similarly trembled upon seeing the ace of Daniel's team emerge. Leon's Charizard came out of his Pokeball at the same time Alon's did. Both trainers and their Charizard watched the King Charizard in awe. He's really here. Gary stuttered, barely able to contain his excitement. Ash, Charizard is my partner, the very first Pokemon I started my journey with. Are you ready to face him? Ash knew right now that he stood before the strongest Pokemon on Earth. Mewtwo, Regigigas, Dialga, Palkia, and Zekrom all would have fallen before the Charizard in front of him without a doubt. Even so, Serena's heart soared when she saw him merely smile back. Are you kidding? I choose you, Greninja. XXX Pokemon unbeatable. Grenin. Ya performed a front flip and landed in front of Ash with his arms crossed. Greninja. Clemont yelped. Greninja. Serena gasped. Greninja. Alon shouted with interest, his Charizard doing much the same. Daniel and his Charizard similarly looked between Ash and his Greninja with a hint of excitement. Ash's Greninja. Is he going to Mega Evolve? Greninja can't Mega Evolve, stupid. Ash's can. Both Oaks, Kukui, and Burnett looked closer with immense interest. Come on, let's see him, Gary shouted. Indeed, I was hoping you'd bring out your Greninja. I've seen many things in this world, nothing quite like his unique transformation. I'm happy we gave you something to look forward to. Ready, Greninja? Greninja turned back to Ash and nodded. Let's go. Ash and Greninja synchronized their aura before a colossal veil of water grew around him. Ash threw his fist out, and the audience let out a collective cheer when they saw Ash Greninja emerge. Ash Greninja, Bonnie cheered. Ash Greninja, Serena said while clasping both hands together. Ah, Misty's eyes lit up, and she near seat. I've never seen a water Pokemon do that before. Grr, what the hell, Ash? All this time, and you never told me. I want to do that with Gyarados or Golduck. Misty snarled. Ash Greninja, an aura-induced evolution. Daniel and his Charizard smiled tenderly at each other before turning to one of the cameras. I hope you're watching, Sensei. Daniel and Charizard looked back at Ash and Ash Greninja. Don't keep us waiting. Let's go. Night Slash. Ash Greninja moved so fast that he seemingly teleported. Dragon Claw. Despite his legendary size, Charizard brought his glowing claws down and parried each blow. Give it everything you've got. Ash channeled more aura into Greninja, who unleashed his barrage of night slashes with unrelenting fury. Even so, Charizard and Daniel's eyes both glowed blue together, and he continued to knock away Ash Greninja's attacks. Double Team, Water Shuriken and Hydro Pump. Ash Greninja leapt backward and into the air, his eyes fixed on Charizard. Gray. Ash Greninja split into 20 copies that all unleashed a fury of Water Shuriken's W. Heil running in a circle or leaping back into the air. Then, when they had Water Shuriken cleared, every Ash Greninja blasted Charizard with Hydro Pump. It almost looked like a small tsunami of water came for Charizard to the audience. No way he can escape that. No way, not against Ash Greninja, Clemont pleaded. Please. Serena almost sweat alongside the others supporting Ash. Dragon Rush. Growl. Charizard coated himself in a dragon aura and then flew in a tight circle. Ash and the audience alike couldn't believe their eyes when they saw Charizard fly straight through the water, instantly evaporating it. Geez, even Ash Greninja can't seem to do anything to Daniel's Charizard. Ash and Ash Greninja didn't flinch and raised their fists together. Gray. Daniel and his Charizard looked at their opponents again as a watery aura surrounded Ash Greninja. Night Slash, Dragon Claw. Ash Greninja virtually appeared in front of Charizard, and less than a moment later, a NCUSSIVE blast nearly blinded the entire audience. Ah, what was that? My ears hurt. Oh, Steven, Diantha, and Lance wobbled around while Leon and Cynthia braced themselves. What happened? Leon muttered. I think Charizard's move hit. When the dust cleared, Ash's supporters yelped when they saw Charizard holding Greninja in his arms. Gray. Greninja muttered, his eyes swirled and body limp. Ash. Serena shrieked when she saw him similarly seize up and collapse. Ah. Delia almost jumped out of her seat with Oak and Samson Oak barely restraining her. Let me go. Let me go. Ah. What happened to Ash? Misty, Dawn, Iris, Chloe, and May shrieked. It's his bond with Greninja. Ash feels the pain too. Clemont yelped. Oh no. Elan remembered his battle with Ash and Kalos and trembled. Ash. Gary and Go cried. Pikachu leapt out of Nurse Joy's arms and raced over to his trainer's side. Ash. Daniel cried. Ah, is Ash okay? Serena. Bonnie started before realizing Serena wasn't in her seat. Serena, look. Misty pointed to the battlefield even as countless spectators gasped at Ash's sudden collapse. Who's that? What's she doing? Misty, Delia, and all the others watched as Serena sprinted across the battlefield, passing two paramedics who raced towards Ash. Ash. Serena knelt beside Ash even as Pikachu desperately tried to wake him up. The trainer's eyes remained open, but he shook as if having a seizure. Ash, snap out of it, please, Serena pleaded while placing her hands over his. Ash, what happened? Daniel screamed as he and Charizard raced over. Serena nearly teared up as she explained the situation to him. The Kaiser and his Charizard almost yelped. He felt Charizard's Dragon Claw too. Growl. Charizard hadn't held anything back when he hit Greninja and trembled at the thought of a human enduring such a blow. Ash, breath. Daniel took a deep breath, and his hands seemed to glow for a moment while performing CPR on Ash. Someone do something. Delia screamed at the top of her lungs. Pikachu. Pikachu teared up as he tried to press against Ash's face but to no avail. Serena opened her eyes, all of the fear vanishing, replaced by a fiery determination. Ash, look at me. I know you're in there. I know you can hear me. Serena cried while placing both hands on his face. Never give up. Ash and Greninja floated together, both seemingly underwater. Greninja, Ash. They tried to reach for each other, but the distance seemed too great. Slowly but surely, they floated further and further apart. Greninja. Ash almost cried when suddenly he saw himself as a little boy, tears flowing down his face while a man knelt in front of him, his eyes meeting Ash's. Ash, I want you to promise me something. Promise me you'll never give up until the end. Never give up until the end. Serena finished when suddenly Ash sprung to life. His head rose with Serena's until they were less than an inch apart. Serena, he said slowly. The performer finally allowed herself to cry, but this time in joy, as she wrapped her arms around Ash and hugged him tightly. I knew you wouldn't quit on us. Pikachu similarly teared up while jumping into Ash's arms. The two paramedics had just gotten their defibrillator out when they saw Ash conscious. Wait, how did he? Started before his partner giggled while pointing to Serena hugging him. Daniel similarly breathed a sigh of relief with his Charizard. Greninja struggled but managed to get to his feet. Greninja, Ash said. Greninja nodded while Delia and the others exhaled deeply. Why does he torment me like this? Delia nearly collapsed from fatigue. Because he's as reckless as ever. Misty growled. Ash, you gave us quite a scare. Daniel said. Yes, you did. Serena said sternly as Ash sweat dropped. Sorry about that. Greninja, are you okay? Greninja slowly nodded. Like hell he is. Nurse Joy pointed her finger at Greninja before an entire squad of medical Pokémon, including two Chanseys, a Wigglytuff, and an Audino, seized Greninja and then forced him onto a gurney before carrying him off. Nurse Joy shot Daniel and Charizard a nasty look before following. Serena helped Ash to his feet, where he steadied himself. Arigato, Serena. She smiled back warmly and nodded. Daniel, I'm ready to continue. Are you sure? You just lost consciousness. Ash raised his fist and stood up tall with Pikachu on his shoulder as if nothing had happened. I'm not giving up now. Not until the end. Daniel almost laughed. That settles the matter then. Daniel and Charizard returned to their corner of the battlefield. Alright, I guess Champion Ash is okay, and the match will continue. The audience as a whole cheered, while many in Ash's section looked concerned. At least have him looked at. Delia roared, nearly going down there herself before both Oaks held her back again. I'm sure he's fine. Besides, he's got something to look after him down there. Shauna giggled while pointing to Serena, who remained beside Ash while he too took his spot. Delia noticed this with interest. She's still there with him. Yep, Misty said with a giant smirk on her face. Our little boy is growing up. She chuckled. Ash took a deep breath and took out his final Pokeball, staring at it with Pikachu. This has been the battle of our lives. Best to go out with everything we've got. Pika, I choose you, Charizard. Growl. Charizard whipped up a thick cloud of dust as he flew from his Pokeball and landed in front of Ash. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Alolan champion Ash Ketchum has brought out his final Pokemon. Charizard. A battle of Charizard. The crowd went wild, particularly Alon and Leon. Now we're talking. Leon's Charizard stared at Ash's Charizard and then Daniel's. Ashamed we didn't get to battle him, Charizard. At least now we'll get to see what he can do. Groo. Charizard nodded. Ash's Charizard stared down Daniel Petitive growl. Despite the overwhelming size and strength of the Kaiser's Charizard compared to himself, Ash's Charizard showed no fear and roared. Growl. Ash's Charizard claimed that the crown would soon be his and Ash's. Growl. Daniel's Charizard growled back, saying he was welcome to try. Let's go, Dragon Claw. As H knew attacking from a distance was pointless by now. He and Charizard wanted nothing more than to go for broke. Growl. Charizard eagerly charged straight for Daniel's Charizard, his claws glowing green. Charizard. It's about damn time. Dragon Claw. Daniel's Charizard started parrying Dragon Claw just like before and smiled, irritating Ash's Charizard to no end as he put everything into his assault. The Kaiser's Charizard proves too fast for Champion Ash's. Dragon Pulse. Charizard propelled himself backward. Growl. A beam of pure dragon energy hurled itself towards Daniel's Charizard, only for Dragon Claw to harmlessly smash it apart. Show him you're flying. Growl. Daniel's Charizard took flight and proved no less capable in the air, flying with the speed and precision of a Staraptor despite his immense size. Once airborne, the two Charizard resumed their Dragon Claw duel, and just like before, Daniel's fought mainly defensively. However, he did find himself exerting more effort than he had with Greninja. Dragon Tail. Growl. Charizard's Dragon Tail proved no more fruitful, with Daniel's Charizard knocking it away and Charizard with it. Charizard. Are you okay? Serena cried. Charizard caught himself with his wings and snarled in frustration. Growl. Charizard roared back at Ash, who slowly nodded. There's only one thing left to do. Daniel and his Charizard's eyes lit up with excitement. Yes. Daniel and his Charizard eagerly awaited Ash's next move when they both realized Charizard didn't have any kind of Charizardite on his body. Wait a minute, oh no. Ash returned Charizard briefly, and the audience caught their breath when they saw his Dynamax band charge up. Moments later, Charizard emerged in his colossal Gigantamaxed form. And Champion Ash has Gigantamaxed his Charizard. Now we're talking. Growl. Leon and his Charizard cried. Ah, he's gotten bigger. Serena's sweat dropped. She'd never been a huge fan of Gigantamaxing Pokemon. Daniel clearly thought much the same, judging by the look on his face. Gigantamaxing him instead of Mega Evolution. You disappoint me, Ash. Nani. Pika. Daniel and his Charizard shook their heads. You haven't gotten your Charizard a proper Mega Evolution stone. What's the matter with you? Growl. Gigantamaxed Charizard shook the stadium with his roar and promised to show Daniel's Charizard just how strong Gigantamaxing was. Growl. The Kaiser's Charizard growled back, accepting the challenge. Let's go. Max Airstream. Growl. Ash's Charizard conjured up a typhoon from his mouth and sent it straight for Daniel's Charizard. Flame Charge. Groo. Daniel's Charizard coated himself in emerald flames and flew through the torrent of wind, which soon erupted into a fierce tornado and then burst apart into nothing with Charizard in the center. Such power. Alon muttered. Max Knuckle. Groo. Ash's Charizard thrust both oversized fists straight for Daniel's Charizard. Dragon Claw. He's not going to dodge. Misty yelped. He doesn't have to. Gary said nervously. Ash, Pikachu, and Serena all watched in awe as Daniel's Charizard slashed both fists back with ease, sending Gigantamax Charizard backward into a stumble. Now we end this. Daniel touched one of the keystones on his fingers and a colorful sphere enveloped Charizard. Ah, it's happening. Alon and his Charizard trembled. But no more than Ash, Pikachu, and Serena. Charizard grit his fangs and anxiously awaited for Mega Charizard to emerge. However, when he did, Ash was left speak. HLESS when Charizard emerged not as a Mega Charizard X or Y but a version he'd never seen before. This Mega Charizard looked like a dragon, even more so than Charizard X. His body sleeker and more dragon-shaped. His skin was black with an emerald green stomach and a green tail flame shaped like an arrowhead. His feet were also green, with green spikes coming out of his knees and across his spine. Green fins adorned his forearms with U-shaped green spike tips on his shoulders. Green spikes came from his wings, the membrane looking like green flames. Green spikes also adorned the sides of his mouth with a black horn on his nose. And his head horns pointed more back with spiked green tops and a black fin coming back on the center of his head. Look up Mega Charizard Z, art by Fadman on DeviantArt. Behold, Ash, Mega Charizard Z. Mega Charizard Z. Alon stuttered. The audience couldn't contain themselves, with many outright fainting. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been gifted today. Daniel's Mega Charizard Z. Charizard Z. Serena similarly yelped, having never heard of that form. G-Max Wildfire. Blast Burn. Growl. Charizard's fiery wings glowed bright red and yellow. He-T. Hen brought forth a giant bird-shaped flame from his back and at Mega Charizard Z. However, in response, Charizard Z unleashed a concussive burst of fire that exploded in the center of G-Max Wildfire. Ash instinctively wrapped himself protectively around Serena and Pikachu, who both nearly lost their senses when the blast burn erupted around them. Ah! The audience momentarily lost their sight and hearing. A high-pitched ringing overtaking them all. Ah, it's too loud. Misty groaned while covering her ears. Charizard felt himself lifted up and onto his back by the blowback and groaned. Dragon Claw. Charizard. Ash cried, his sight and hearing returning. Charizard tried to get up, but Charizard Z came down upon him like a living Draco meteor. When he made contact, shockwaves knocked Ash and Serena off their feet alongside much of the audience from their seats. Ash and Pikachu took a deep breath after the dust cleared, but Serena gave them a reassuring look. Smiling, Ash and Pikachu got up with her to see Charizard Z standing over Charizard, unconscious, and reverted to his base form. Charizard is unable to battle. The winner is Kaiser Daniel. Ash's cheering section let out a collective sigh of disappointment. Though, by that point, they realized he wasn't going to win. Well, I guess I never stood a chance. Leon chuckled while rubbing the back of his head. Quote. None of us did. Daniel is something else entirely. Lance admitted while the other champions nodded. Cynthia, however, continued to gaze at Daniel while resting her head against her hand. Ash didn't listen, much to the audience's thunderous applause. Instead, he and Pikachu approached Charizard, who sat up with a look of overwhelming defeat. Charizard, I'm very proud of you. Ash assured him while patting the fire lizard's shoulder. Pika, growl. Daniel's Charizard offered similar sentiments to Ash's Charizard, who reluctantly nodded. Ash, I'm very proud of you too. Serena said, placing her hand on Ash's shoulder with a warm smile. Before he could reply, Daniel had arrived and offered his hand to the Alolan champion. Arigato gozaimashita, Daniel, Ash said, smiling without a hint of disappointment while shaking the Kaiser's hand. Daniel nodded back. Ash, don't leave just yet. I'd like to have a word with you in private. Serena muttered. Pika, Ash, Pikachu, and the rest of his team who'd battled Daniel, including Greninja, rested near a wooded area just outside Winden City. The sky was turning slightly orange as day turned to evening, and they listened to the serene sound of wind blowing through tree branches and wild Pokémon moving about. Each of Ash's Pokémon remained close to him as they tried to take in their battle with Daniel earlier that day. Ash and his Pokémon had been humbled many times in their journey, but never quite like that, especially just after winning the World Coronation Series. Even so, Ash forced himself to smile and motioned for his Pokémon to come closer. I'm very proud of you Gaian's Pokémon with such courage and determination. We have nothing to be ashamed of. Pika, Pikachu. Infernape and Dragonite soon nodded with similar expressions. However, Greninja did so more reluctantly. Charizard and Lucario, by contrast, couldn't shake off the look of disappointment. Ash tried to console them when he and the others felt a powerful wind sweep over them and noticed many wild Pokemon flee in terror. So you decided to meet us after all, Daniel said as he flew in on his Charizard and shook the ground as he landed. It's hard to say no to the Pokemon Kaiser, Ash said, placing his hand behind his head. Ash's Pokemon turned to greet them, but Charizard couldn't quite look out of shame and a hint of resentment, at least until he eared the King Charizard growl and nervously did so. I'm sorry we had to leave Winden City to talk. I tend to attract attention wherever I go, Daniel said, sweat dropping slightly. I don't mind. This was a nice spot to get away and clear my head. Daniel came over and sat beside Ash before staring off into the horizon with him. Are you doing okay? Serena explained to me your unique bond with Greninja. Ash slowly nodded. We'll be fine, eventually. I've never quite felt anything like your Charizard before. Greninja and Charizard both sweat dropped while nodding in agreement. I suppose I should congratulate you, though. Overcoming Leon at such a young age. Maybe, but we were no match for you. I think you did better than you realize, Ash. Ash took this sincerely, and soon even Charizard and Lucario started to feel a little better. I've been watching you for some time. You've come a long way since you started your journey, Ash. You've been watching my career. Ash muttered in awe, quickly followed by his Pokemon. You're only 16, and you've become a regional champion and reached the top of the World Coronation Series. It makes me wonder what you're going to do next. Ash felt his stomach harden slightly, and his Pokemon saw the uncertainty in their trainer's eyes. Since starting the World Coronation Series, Ash had remained entirely focused on this final goal. He hadn't put any thought into what he might do next. I suppose there are other regions, other gyms, other leagues. Pikachu trembled when he heard a distinct lack of spark in Ash's voice. The passion and determination that drove him through so many regions didn't seem to inspire him like they used to, not after earning the title of regional champion, not after the World Coronation Series. I guess I'm a Pokemon master, aren't I? Ash sounded slightly lost and very unsure of himself. Do you feel like a Pokemon master? Daniel asked in a serious tone. Ash slowly trembled and turned to each of his Pokemon before sighing. No, I've achieved everything I set out to accomplish, all except that, and, well. Ash cut himself off, and Daniel noticed his face turn slightly bashful. Indeed, I know how you feel. Traveling to new regions, gym battles, and Pokemon leagues, it just doesn't feel quite the same anymore. What are you going to do now, if you don't mind me asking? Ash took a deep breath but soon saw his Pokemon come closer and embrace him. Daniel and his Charizard saw a fire light in Ash's eyes, and he almost sprung back up. I'm going to become a Pokemon master, one way or another. I still have one goal left to achieve. Daniel and his Charizard saw the same fire spread to Ash's Pokemon, and soon they all stared at them with burning enthusiasm. Really? Daniel smirked with his Charizard. Hi, one day we will overcome you, Daniel. We won't ever give up. Pika, Growl, Gruu, Knight, Ape, Gray. Rather than look competitive or cocky, Daniel smiled back at Ash with immense pride. That's exactly what I wanted to hear, Ash. Ash looked slightly confused. Do you know why I've watched your career with so much interest, Ash? Because of your ability to grow and bond with your Pokemon in such a short time. You've done more in a few years than most can accomplish in a lifetime. I had a lot of help along the way, Ash admitted before he felt Daniel's hand on his shoulder. So did we, Nani. Ash's Pokemon looked just as surprised. Not many people know this, but we had a mentor early in our journey. You did, Pika. Daniel nodded as his Charizard thought back to what were clearly many fond memories. Sensei came to Charizard and me when we were at our lowest and took us under his wing. Everything we've accomplished was because of him and his training. Growl. Charizard growled while nodding. Sensei always told me he saw something in me, a special kind of potential for true greatness. It's that same potential I've come to see in you, Ash. Your aura, Gruu. Lucario perked up with immense interest. Daniel took a deep breath and made Ash as well as his team gaze in awe when his eyes flashed blue with Charizards. All seven nearly yelped when they saw Daniel unleash a small aura sphere into a tree. You know of aura, Ash, and you have the ability to form exceptional bonds with your Pokemon because of it. Not just with your Lucario, but all your Pokemon. It's this aura bonding that enhances your ability to grow with your Pokemon, like your Greninja, for example. All eyes turned to Greninja. I've never quite seen anything like your bond evolution with him. It was further proof that your ability to use aura could surpass even my own. It could. Ash trembled, earning a deep smile from Daniel. Yes, which is why I want us to battle again. Not now, of course, but after I've unlocked your true potential. My true potential. Daniel and his Charizard gazed out at the horizon. Ash, since I became Kaiser, I've longed for someone to truly challenge my team and me. Someone who could push me to my limits and make us prove ourselves again. You're the only one who can do this, so I want to train you and your Pokemon the same way Sensei taught me. Hone your aura abilities and make you a Pokemon master. Ash and his Pokemon trembled in disbelief, unable to comprehend what they heard. You want to train us? Yes. Ash saw the excitement fade from Daniel's face and harden into steel. But you must understand, Ash, this will be the most strenuous and demanding thing you've ever done. You and your Pokemon will be pushed beyond your limits and then continue. I won't take it easy on you at all and will expect a full dedication to your training. That means a complete time commitment too. Time, Ash muttered. Yes, it means for the next few years, you will only train with me and attend to your duties as a Alolan champion. Nothing else. Ash hesitated, unsure of what to do. He turned to his 6 Pokemon, who looked similarly conflicted. It wasn't that Ash was afraid of such hardships, but leaving behind his friends for so long, one in particular. Pikachu, Pikachu cried. Gruu, Gray, Knight, Ape, Growlithe. Ash wiped away a single tear and exhaled. Forgive me, he said, thinking of someone in particular while holding his heart. Daniel, train us. The Kaiser nodded while his Charizard roared. Finally, now first things first, hand me your Dynamax band. Okay. Ash did so without hesitation, only for Daniel's eyes to glow blue while he crushed the device into pieces. Ash, Pikachu, and the other Pokemon all turned pale with crestfallen expressions. Rule number 1, no more Gigantimaxing. Daniel held his head with an incredibly annoyed look. I can't express how much I hate that trick. Growlithe, the King Charizard snarled while nodding. But, Ash almost teared up before Daniel reached his hand out again. Your Z-Ring too. Ah, please, no, this is from the region one first became a champion in. Ash pleaded. Daniel exhaled deeply. Fine, but we are going to remedy one particular situation. Daniel took out a box and shoved it into Ash's hands. Open it. Ash slowly did so and gasped with Charizard when he saw 2 keystones and 3 different pieces of Charizardite inside, along with a necklace holder just like the kind Alon's and Daniel house their Charizardite. This is just a start. We'll get a stone for each of your capable Pokemon eventually. But your Charizard will Mega Evolve, you hear me? Growlithe. Charizard roared with bursting enthusiasm. Arigato gozaimashita, Daniel, but I already have a keystone. Ash said, showing his to Daniel. Take the other 2, you'll be able to Mega Evolve up to 3 Pokemon at once. Daniel said while emphasizing his 2 keystones. Gather up all your Pokemon and meet us at MT Silver when you're ready. We'll begin training there. Before Ash could say anything else, Daniel climbed into his Charizard and took off. Don't keep us waiting too long, Ash. Growlithe. Ash and Charizard slowly looked back at the 3 pieces of Charizardite. Charizard, you should pick. Which form do you want to take? Charizard hesitated as he pictured himself first as a Charizard X while staring at that piece of Charizardite, and then Y when he turned to that piece. However, Charizard's eyes lingered on the 3rd piece. And upon looking at the King Charizard one more time, he snarled with an immensely competitive smile before emphasizing one of the 3 pieces. Alright, Ash placed the necklace on Charizard's and then embedded his chosen piece of Charizardite inside. However, upon doing so, he thought about one individual in particular once again and hesitated. Pikachu said, trying to comfort him. Greninja pointed to a nearby rock, and soon the others looked over. There, Ash and his team saw several wild Pokemon gathered around a stage-shaped boulder where another Pokemon gleefully danced around, putting on a show for the others. Several of the wild Pokemon applauded, and the dancing Pokemon cried out in utter passion before continuing her performance. Ash smiled fondly before looking back at the remaining pieces of Charizardite and 2 keystones. That's it. Back inside Winden City, Serena furiously raced through the halls of the hotel Ash had been staying at for the World Coronation Series Master Class battles. Ash, she cried with Sylveon close beside her. Serena's heart raced, for neither she nor any of the others had seen Ash NCE he disappeared following his battle with Daniel. Ash, come out here this moment. Delia roared while rounding a corner with Scylla, Kukui and Burnett, and Samson Oak. You haven't found him either. Serena muttered. No, he's quite elusive, that Ash. Samson chuckled before Delia's fiery eyes silenced him. Come on, let's keep looking. Delia led her group down another hall while Serena and Sylveon continued on their own. Eventually, she came across Misty, Brock, May, Dawn, Shauna, Iris, Clemont, Chloe, Bonnie, Tierno, and Go. I swear, I'm going to smack him over the head so hard when we find him. Misty snarled. Serena, he didn't look distraught after his battle, did he? Brock asked. No, Serena muttered, though now she wasn't so sure of herself. After almost 2 years apart from Ash, Serena was overjoyed for the chance to see him again, particularly now that she considered herself ready to press on him as her goal, just as she'd promised. She'd wanted to do so following his battle, but he went off to talk with Daniel, robbing her of the opportunity. Despite this, she stood up tall with fiery determination. We'll find him no matter what. Serena's right, let's go, May cried. They continued searching before eventually running into Tracy and Professor Oak. Ah, there you are. Oak said. You found Ash. Serena cried. No, but we got a call from Kaze. Tracy said. Who? Shauna asked. Kaze is my other protege back at my lab. He remained behind while Tracy and I came to support Ash. We received a call from him a few minutes ago. Apparently, Ash had called earlier requesting that all his Pokémon be sent to him. What? The group shouted in unison. I know, quite strange. Oak said before he and Tracy continued searching. Why would Ash do that? Iris asked. Have we checked his room yet? Tierno asked before Misty looked ready to slap him, then actually did it. Ah, Tierno moaned while holding his cheek where a red handprint lay. Yes, we checked there. How long ago, though? Brock asked. A while ago, Misty admitted. Serena and Sylveon sprinted ahead of the others, ignoring all sense of fatigue before noticing Ash's room's door slightly open. Ash, they cried while throwing the door open. There, they spotted Ash on the balcony, his backpack bulging with Pokeballs and Pikachu on his shoulder. Ash, Serena froze when she saw his Charizard flying over the balcony and lowering himself for Ash to climb onto his back. Ash, Serena cried, barely able to contain her intense emotions. She sprinted over to the balcony with Sylveon and grabbed his hand. Ash and Pikachu slowly turned, his eyes meeting Serena's. A moment of silent but intense passion overtook them both as Pikachu, Sylveon, and Charizard anxiously waited for one to speak. Especially when they saw the same look of hesitation from earlier overtake Ash. Serena, he muttered. There you are, Misty roared while racing inside the room after Serena. The others close behind. Ah, Ash, what are you doing? Clemont yelped. Are you going somewhere? Brock muttered. Ash didn't turn to the others but kept looking at Serena. Hi, there's something I have to do. It will take me away from everyone for quite some time. You're leaving. Serena almost choked on her words. Ash, this is crazy. Just because you lost to the Kaiser, May started. I'm not running away or sulking. I have a chance to achieve my dreams if I do this. You just have to trust me. Ash, Misty snarled like an overprotective sister before Serena placed both hands on his shoulders. Ash, grow stronger, and never give up your dream. A single tear fell from Serena's eyes as she said this. Bonnie, Shauna, Iris, May, Chloe, and Misty all slowly smiled when they saw this. Tear. No trembled while Brock nodded at Ash proudly, for more reason than one. Ash, Go muttered. This isn't goodbye to any of you. I'll be back, I promise. Pika. Growlithe, you'd better come back extra strong. Sawyer cried, catch lots of amazing Pokémon. Go added, and keep yourself safe. Misty added. Ash nodded before turning back to Serena and taking her hands. Serena, my dream is to become a Pokémon master. But I have another goal too. Ash smiled back in a way that made the others pause. But in case it is a while before we meet again, I'd like you to take care of someone for me. Ash placed something into Serena's hand, though she remained so focused on Ash that she didn't notice. Ash slowly climbed onto Charizard's back while his friend waved goodbye, but just as the fire lizard was about to fly off, Ash turned around. One more thing. The world seemed to slow down as Ash placed his hands around Serena's shoulders and planted a fiery kiss on her lips. Ah, Bonnie, Chloe, and Shauna clasped their hands together and beamed bright pink while Tierno turned pale and collapsed onto his back. Ash, Brock teared up in joy while Go and Clemont yelped. I knew it, Sawyer laughed. May, Misty, and Iris all giggled. Looks like he has grown up. May sighed. Sylveon giggled while Pikachu and Charizard chuckled. After a long time, Charizard forcibly pulled Ash away, leaving Serena bright red and trembling. Serena, you're my target. The next time you see me, I'll be the Pokemon Kaiser. Once I become Pokemon Kaiser, I'm going to marry you, Ash proclaimed. Serena suddenly went still, but the others exploded. Marry, did he just say, marry? Misty yelped. Serena finally regained her senses and merely smiled back. Then you really have to become the Pokemon Kaiser, Ash. The performer cried back. She and the others watched Ash until he disappeared into the sunset. Serena's face still beamed red while holding her heart. Serena, what did Ash give you? May asked. Serena only then remembered and quickly looked down to see the handkerchief from the first day they'd met. Ash, she muttered before realizing that the H&KD something round. Huh, a Pokeball, Serena almost shouted upon realizing what it was. Something else fell out of the handkerchief too. Serena quickly caught a Mega Evolution Keystone and piece of Charizardite in her offhand. A Keystone and piece of Charizardite, Brock said upon closer inspection. Serena looked back at the Pokeball and opened it, revealing the Pokemon inside. Serena almost jumped when she saw a small Charmander leap out and into her arms. A Charmander, Misty shouted. The female Charmander smiled warmly while looking up into Serena's eyes. The performer finally let out a few tears and held the Charmander tightly. Until we meet again, Ash. Ash didn't think it was possible, but he found himself overheating even as the icy winds of MT. Silver blew past him and his Pokemon. Come on, guys, no giving up now. Ash cried out to the Pokemon around him, who struggled up the mountainside beside him. Like his Pokemon, Ash wore a weighted vest made worse by a series of X-Cruk. Tingly crushing metal spring-like bindings that contracted the arms inward like a vice. This forced Ash and all his Pokemon to work nearly 3 times harder just to move their upper bodies at all. Many wild Pokemon watched the human and his convoy of Pokemon with interest, fear, or confusion. Pika, Delay, Growl, Ape, Ash's Pokemon mirrored their trainer's determination and fought against the elements in overwhelming burden until finally, they reached the summit. Ash breathed heavily and kept up his grim determination as he and Pikachu stared at 11 figures who awaited them. Danny L stood directly across from Ash with his Charizard, Torterra, Talonflame, Lucario, Aggron, Tyranitar, Feraligatr, Tyrantrum, Tauros, and Haxorus flanking him. The Pokemon Kaiser and his Pokemon all shared the same impatient smile. It took you long enough. A few of Ash's Pokemon growled, but Ash, Pikachu, Charizard, Lucario, and many more merely smiled back. Sorry, we have over 30 Tauros with us, Ash said, emphasizing the herd bringing up the rear of his party. Well, now that you're warmed up, are you ready for some real training? Despite the intense strain it put on their bodies, Shish and his Pokemon all took a fighting stance. We're ready, Pika, Talon, Hall, Bay, Kingler. Daniel lowered his hood and smiled wider. Good, let's get started. Ash and all his Pokemon raced towards the Kaiser's team, their fiery blood keeping the cold at a distance. Ash lunged for Daniel and tried to strike him, only for the Kaiser to knock it aside effortlessly. Ash's Pokemon came at Daniel's in groups. Though Charizard forced himself to meet Daniel's Charizard first, only to meet a similar fate as his trainer. Daniel's team kept back Ash's Pokemon and forced them to exert themselves like never before. Day after day, week after week, month after month, all day, every day. At least until several months later, Ash stood on one end of the Mount Lanakila Stadium on Ulaula Island in Alola. A middle-aged man sighed as he approached his unconscious Bouffalant. Bouffalant, I'm sorry we couldn't win. When Adler and his Bouffalant opened their eyes, they saw Ash, with Pikachu on his shoulder, extend his hand down. His Lycanroc stood beside him along with Gengar, Oshawott, Staraptor, Tauros, and Bayleaf. That was quite a battle. You guys did amazing. Adler smiled a little and took Ash's hand to get up. Thank you. It's been too long since I faced a champion. Both shook hands as the audience lit up with applause. There you have it, folks. Ash has won the battle and retained his title of Alolan champion against the former Unova champion, Adler. A board showed all 6 of Adler's Pokémon with the lights blacked out beneath his picture. Across from him rested Ash's picture with Oshawott, Gengar, Bayleaf, and Tauros lights dimmed. "All right, Ash," Mallow cried as she sat with Lily and the others in a private box, trying not to tremble with Daniel sitting among them, a proud smile on his face. "That's my boy," Delia cried. Over a year after Ash started training with Daniel, he and his Pokémon stood on the beaches of Southern Island in Hoenn, all wearing the same training gear they had at MT Silver. "Again," Daniel said with stern discipline as Ash unleashed a series of successive strikes in ever-increasing synchronization with his Pokémon. Ash went for Daniel while Lucario went for Daniel's Charizard, doing the same with Daniel's too. The Kaiser and his Pokémon easily kept away the attacks, though it wasn't an effortless affair as it was a year earlier. Ash and Daniel shifted locations on the island every few hours, moving into a lagoon with his water-flying Pokémon, the Palm Forest with his grass, and more. Delay, Squirtle, Totodile and Squirtle burst out of the water, with Daniel's monstrous Feraligatr following. Just like in Kanto, Ash spent almost an entire year training in Hoenn, mostly on Southern Island, only briefly leaving when he needed to defend his title of Alolan champion. One of these battles happened near the end of the year, and once more, Ash stood victorious. Only this time, he had Bulbasaur, Donphan, Glalie, Infernape, Unfezant, and Holocha beside him. That does it, ladies and gentlemen. Champion Ash emerges victorious against Drake of the Hoenn Elite Four. All 6 of Drake's Pokémon's pictures were dimmed, while only Donphan, Holocha, and Unfezant's did so on Ash's side. "How about that?" Drake said with an impressed nod. Ash came over with his team and extended his hand. "Great match, Drake. That was exciting." "Yes, you've come quite a long way since we last battled each other, young man. To think I could only overcome 3 of your Pokémon," Drake said while shaking hands with Ash to an over-animated crowd. "Look at him," Professor Kukui said with Burnett, Lay, Delia, and Samson Oak beside him. "Yes, look at him." Daniel and his Charizard watched Ash with ever-increasing intrigue. "Looks like need to take it up a notch, again." Halfway through the following year, Ash furiously exchanged blows with Daniel while his Pokémon did the same against the Kaiser's Pokémon. Like before, they wore the constricting vests with advancing burden and tightness. However, every day Ash and his Pokémon moved faster. For the past 6 months, they trained almost non-stop in the Sinnoh's battle zone, moving from place to place on the island and only breaking for Ash to tend to his champion duties. Ash panted heavily as he unleashed successive blows toward Daniel, who was now truly putting serious effort into his fighting. Ash felt himself stumble backward after a kick to the stomach alongside Heracross and Gengar. Daniel smiled and held out both hands, revealing his Gauntlet Keystone on one and Ring Keystone on the other. "Care for a real battle?" Ash and his Pokémon grinned. "I thought you'd never, Ash." Ash's other Pokémon stopped for a moment and watched with exuberance when Ash touched both Keystones. Within moments, Heracross and Gengar emerged from colorful spheres in their Mega-evolved forms. Gar. Finally, dual Mega Evolution, took you long enough. Daniel touched both his stones, and within moments, Aggron and Tyranitar both Mega-evolved. Come on then. By year's end, Ash once more stood in the Mount Lanakila Stadium with none other than Tobias trying to help his unconscious Darkrai up. "Darkrai, are you okay?" Quote, "Rai." Darkrai groaned before an equally massive Torterra knelt down and helped him up. "Terra, Darkrai was incredible. All your Pokémon were. I'm glad you brought the whole legendary team," Ash said, earning a smirk from Tobias even as he shook his head. Aside from Pikachu on his shoulder and Torterra beside Darkrai, Ash also had Muk, Typhlosion, Swellow, Serperior, and Noivern beside him. "I'm sure you are," Tobias sighed as he looked back up at the board. Darkrai, Latios, Regigigas, Articuno, Raikou, and Virizion all marked beaten while on Ash's board only had Swellow and Muk dimmed. Folks, this was a match that won't quickly be forgotten, as Alolan champion Ash Ketchum once again defends his title win over Tobias. He beat 6 legendaries. Llie muttered while Gladion tried to remain in his seat. Like they were nothing. He's getting so powerful. Daniel and his Lucario slowly clapped with proud expressions. Looks there's no holding back in our training now. 4 months later, Ash struggled to stay upright while fighting Daniel on top of a moving train as it sped along the rails in Anvil Town. All around them, Ash's non-flying Pokémon battled Daniel's on top of either the same train or several nearby ones. However, unlike the last few years, Ash kept pace with Daniel, even with his restrictive gear on. Sweat trickled down student and teacher as they trained. Dragon Claw, Iron Tail, Pikachu and Charizard moved in with Ash and exchanged blows with Daniel's Charizard, who sparred back using Dragon Claw. Daniel continued blocking Ash's strikes. But when he launched his own, the Kaiser's eyebrows raised upon seeing the Alolan champion knock it aside. "I thought you weren't holding back anymore," Ash said with a grin. Daniel's expression mirrored Ash's. Indeed, all of Ash's Pokémon forced Daniel's to fight unrestrained, though dividing their attention between multiple opponents. At the end of that year, Ash caught Squirtle as he triumphantly leapt into his arms. "That was unbelievable, Squirtle." Pika. Beside Ash stood Corphish, Feraligatr, Infernape, Dragonite, and Crocodile. Across from Ash and his team, Lance helped his red Gyarados ease up after getting knocked out. "We gave it everything, Gyarados. That's all that matters." Lance looked up at the board, which showed all 6 of his Pokémon dimmed and only one of Ash's, Corphish. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Alolan champion Ash Ketchum achieves a near-flawless victory against former Kanto champion, Lance. Ash shook hands with Lance, who sighed. "Here I was hoping a victory against you might revitalize my career and inspire me to take back my title. But I suppose the future is for the young, first losing the position as champion to him, now losing to you too. You're still one of the best trainers in the world, Lance," Ash assured him, but the Dragon Master narrowed his eyes up at a private box. "Does your mentor think so?" Daniel and his team sat in the box. But not alone. None other than Cynthia sat beside the Kaiser with a warm smile. "Looks like all your hard work is paying off," Cynthia said, her head resting on Daniel's shoulder as he nodded. "Definitely, now the real work begins." Over halfway through the following year, Ash and his Pokémon trained in Killout City Kalos near a small lake before an ever-increasing audience of tourists and ace trainers. The training proved harder than any they'd done in the last 4 years combined, for unlike before, Daniel wasn't just training Ash but pushing his own limits. Ash's constraining gear bound him and his Pokémon like an iron arsenic, yet they moved as if nothing were there. However, this time, it wasn't just them wearing the gear. Daniel and his Pokémon all wore the same restrictive jackets and felt sweat drench their bodies while training with Ash's Pokémon as much as they taught them. Night Slash, Dragon Claw, Greninja, Charizard, and Shish moved in near-perfect synchronization while sparring against Feraligatr and Daniel's Charizard, who kept pace with each other. Daniel pushed himself past his previous limits and knocked Ash backward while his Pokémon did the same. "Thank you, Ash. This is the first time we've challenged in years. Glad I could help." Ash laughed. "Now to see what you're truly capable of." Daniel flexed hard while his eyes flashed blue, and the restraining jacket burst off, revealing his immensely muscular upper body. While doing this, the Kaiser also pressed one of his keystones, Mega Evolving Charizard into Mega Charizard Z. Ash's eyes glowed blue as he thrust both arms out and felt his gear shot off in a blue burst of aura, revealing a similarly toned upper body. "We can show you, Growl." Ash pressed one of his keystones, and Mega Evolved Charizard into Mega Charizard Z while Greninja synchronized his aura with Ash and transformed into Ash Greninja. "Let's go." Both teams clashed while Ash and Daniel's other Pokémon continued their own training, climaxing when Ash and Daniel thrust their hands forward and both unleashed aura spheres from their hands. At the end of that year, Ash took his spot on one end of Lanakila Stadium with Mega Heracross facing off against a Mega Gardevoir. Moonblast, Swords Dance. Mega Heracross very narrowly avoided the incoming attack with almost unbelievable agility, flipping himself in midair and enhancing his physical attack. Megahorn Cross. Mega Heracross propelled himself through the air like a missile, crashing his horn into Mega Gardevoir's stomach, slamming her hard into the ground. Gardevoir. When the dust settled, Mega Heracross stood over an unconscious Gardevoir. "It's over, folks, it's over." Alolan champion Ash defeats former Kalos champion Diantha in a flawless victory. "We did it, Heracross." Pika. Cross. Mega Heracross almost tackled Ash and Pikachu onto their backs when he flew into them. Within moments, Sirfetch'd, Incineroar, Gliscor, Kingler, and Snorlax joined in the embrace. Diantha placed her arms around Gardevoir with a comforting smile. "We did our best. I'm very proud of you." The audience erupted into overwhelming applause, particularly at the fact that all 6 of Ash's Pokémon remained lit up on the board. Ash, I can't believe how strong you've become in these last few years. Diantha offered her hand to Ash, and he shook it with a friendly smile. We put in the hard work, and never gave up on our goals, right guys? Pika, cross. Well, at this rate, there's only one place for you to go. Both looked up at one private box in particular. There Daniel and Cynthia sat beside each other alongside their Pokémon. The Sinnoh champion stroked her hands across her swollen stomach while Daniel did the same. A few of their Pokémon occasionally nuzzling the unborn baby inside. Daniel looked down at Ash, who looked back up at him. So, is it finally time? Cynthia asked with a slight chuckle. Not yet. There are 6 trainers he must beat first. Cynthia nodded in understanding. Ah, I see. I suppose I'm one of them. Daniel nodded and kissed her on the cheek while Cynthia gazed down at Ash with an almost excited look. Good. After 5 years of training with you, I'm eager to see what he's truly capable of. But after Junior here is born, that'll be too much excitement for a pregnant woman. Cynthia exhaled and tried to ease back. Daniel and his Charizard kept their eyes on Ash. The next few months will tell us if someone will ever take the crown from us, Charizard. Growl. Charizard nodded. Absol. Use Mega Horn. Blastoise. Iron Defense. A Mega-evolved Absol dashed across the Indigo Stadium's battlefield so fast he almost appeared to fly with his wing shape. D-mains and came straight for a Mega Blastoise. Mega Blastoise's smile widened into utter confidence, and he covered himself in a layer of steel. Saw. Mega Absol stabbed his horn into Mega Blastoise multiple times, but the steel-coated water Pokémon knocked each blow aside with his now iron arms. After another failed attempt, Mega Absol felt Mega Blastoise seize his horn in a fierce grip. Saw. Oh no. Now. Hydro Pump. Blastoise. Mega Blastoise threw Mega Absol up and unleashed an artillery barrage of water into his opponent. Absol, the dark Pokémon, landed in front of his trainer, reverted to normal form, and unconscious. Absol is unable to battle. The ref announced while raising one of her flags. That settles it, ladies and gentlemen. A knockout blow to Kalos Battle Mansion Chatelaine Astrid by your Kanto champion. Gary Oak. The crowd erupted into applause as Gary joined his Mega Blastoise to raise their fists. And that's how it's done. Blastoise. Back in the audience, a young woman, Gary's age, with long brown hair and matching eyes, sat near the front row. Leaf sighed and shook her head led warmly and applauded Gary with the others. Astrid took a deep breath and returned her Absol. We did everything we could. The blonde Kalos trainer saw Gary extend his hand, and she begrudgingly shook it. Looks like you're as strong as they say, Gary. Maybe I should've started with a member of your Elite Four. My Elite Four are top tier. Don't even try to sell them short. Gary half laughed, half boasted. That's right, Misty shouted while sitting with Koga, Morty, and Jasmine, who all gave varying reactions, though each clearly agreed with Gary's statement regarding them. Nowhere's better than Kanto. I dedicate my win here to my home region and everyone here. Gary's words enticed the crowd that much more, but the Kanto champion looked back at Leaf in particular and winked, causing her to blush uncontrollably. Eevee. Leaf's Eevee giggled. Mr. Oak, I can take Blastoise for you. A Nurse Joy said as she approached him with a mobile healing kit, surprisingly him a little. Thanks, but he wasn't hurt in the battle. This could have waited. Gary said Eel returning Blastoise and handing him off to Nurse Joy. Well, we thought you might want to use Blastoise again in your next battle. This caught Gary slightly off guard. Another one. I thought Astrid was my final battle for the day. There was a last-minute entry pushed through. There, all better. Nurse Joy handed Blastoise's Pokeball back. Who pushed them through? Daniel Ryan. Gary's heart raced. Daniel Ryan wants to battle me. No, he merely insisted that this contender gets to battle you. Gary smiled again. Alright, I'll take them on whoever they are. Ladies and gentlemen, Ave just learned of a new challenger for Kanto champion Gary Oak. You're in for a special treat tonight, a battle between 2 regional champions. Put your hands together for Alolan champion, Ash Ketchum. Gary's eyes widened slightly, and he almost didn't hear the audience's uproar. Instead, the Kanto champion focused all his senses and attention on the new trainer walking through the entryway towards him. Ash. Misty almost yelped while the other Elite Four members peered closer with interest. Finally, they saw him, now tall and muscular with an athletic build. Ash entered the Indigo Stadium with Pikachu on his shoulder. Misty and Gary hadn't seen Ash in person for over 5 years, only catching him on TV whenever he appeared to defend his title in Alola. Other than that, he disappeared off the map entirely. "Where have you been?" Misty sighed, slightly annoyed with her old friend, who she'd considered almost a brother. "There he is." Misty nearly jumped upon hearing the familiar voice and turned around to see none other than Delia Ketchum racing towards a few empty seats in the Elite Four box with Professor Oak close behind. "Mrs. Ketchum, you knew Ash was coming here. I just found out this morning. It was quite something. Ash called her this morning, explaining Daniel arranged for him to battle Gary, and we drove up here as fast as we could. We aren't late, are we?" Misty looked back behind Delia and saw 2 more familiar faces enter the box. Brock had sweat running down his face as he led a heavily pregnant Pike Queen Lucy in. "Broke, please, not so fast." Lucy groaned while holding her swollen stomach. "Ah, sorry, Lucy." Brock frantically placed a few special cushions down on a seat and very carefully sat her down beside Misty. "Hey Misty." "Lucy, good to see you too. You're practically glowing. Well, Junior here will be coming soon. I can't believe Ash has finally come home after all these years." Brock shouted as he and the others all turned back to him. "I know, he hides away for half a decade and only shows his face when he has to." Misty growled while crossing her arms and glaring at Ash. "I'm just glad he came home." Delia said, "I've heard rumors he's been training with Daniel Ryan. Supposedly people in Kalos and Unova claim they saw them together." Daniel Ryan. Misty's rage subsided into awe. Ash reached Gary, whose shock faded into genuine anticipation. "Gary." Ash extended his hand out, and Gary eagerly shook it. "So the elusive Alolan champion finally comes home. I wondered where you've disappeared to for the last 5 years when not defending your title. Some say you've been training with Daniel Ryan. Could this be true?" Ash and Gary's smiles grew more intense. "I've been training hard with my Pokemon, and we've had a trainer." Ash's response gave Gary his answer. "Well, I'm glad you came here. Even becoming Kanto champion felt a little hollow since I never truly proved myself against you to do it. Now, I finally get the chance." Ash and Gary took their positions on the edge of the battlefield. The battle between Kanto champion Gary Oak and Alolan champion Ash Ketchum will now commence. Each trainer is allowed 6 Pokemon, and both challengers can substitute. Trainers, choose your Pokemon. Time to see what training with Daniel Ryan can do. But we're not afraid. Let's go, Electivire. The hulking electric Pokemon came out and flexed his muscular arms to a cheering crowd. "Ready?" Ash asked. Pikachu leapt off Ash's shoulder and faced down Electivire. Champion Gary Oak has chosen Electivire and Champion Ash Ketchum his Pikachu. "Gary, I've been looking forward to this for a long time too. But I'm afraid this is only the beginning of something much bigger." "Really? What's that?" "My road to the Kaiser." Gary narrowed his eyes slightly. "Electivire, use Screech, Agility." Gary's Electivire let loose a piercing cry that would have sharply lowered Pikachu's defense had it made contact. But the electric mouse moved across the field with a speed that almost made it look like he used teleport instead of agility. Probably should have seen that coming. No matter. Electivire shake things up with Bulldoze. Vera. Electivire slammed his foot into the dirt with enough force to crack the stadium's foundation. "Oh, how will he get out of this one?" Misty asked with more interest than concern. "He'll find a way," Brock assured her. Iron Tail. Pikachu used Iron Tail on the ground with such force that it counteracted the incoming seismic waves coming toward him. Incredible, folks. Champion Ash has an answer for each of Champion Gary's moves. You always were resourceful, but so are we. Electivire used Swift and Thunderbolt. Electivire filled the battlefield with a sea of shuriken stars and then electrocuted them, creasing an electric field around Pikachu. Iron Tail and Agility. Pika. Pikachu increased his speed again and lashed out with Iron Tail. However, years of intense training with Daniel made such movements feel like nothing, and he effortlessly shattered the electrified stars, dispelling their charges too. "Look at him, go!" Brock shouted in disbelief. "Indeed, just last week, I saw Electivire's Swift bring a fully grown Nidoking to his knees," Oak said, placing a hand on his chin. "They've gotten so strong." Delia beamed. I expected nothing less, Ash. But unfortunately for you, we've got a counter to Iron Tail. Fire Punch. Vera. Electivire slammed both fists together, igniting them. Agility. Electivire lunged toward Pikachu and unleashed a barrage of fiery punches that could have shattered rocks. Unfortunately for Pikachu, Iron Tail wouldn't work against a fire-type move and could only dodge the incoming attacks. Electivire moved surprisingly fast despite his immense size and displayed incredible stamina, not slowing even the slightest bit after several dozen strikes. Pikachu continued evading with even greater agility than Electivire, though he felt the fire punches' heat and left countless audience members on the edge of their seats. "Ash, you better not let him hit Pikachu," Misty roared, especially Alley when she saw how calm and in control Ash appeared, mistaking it for cockiness. Lucy, however, made no such error and sat up as much as her pregnant stomach would allow. Electro Ball. Catch it, Pikachu. When Pikachu backflipped again, he used the momentum to hurl a sphere of Electrivire. Electivire reacted instantly and caught the Electro Ball in his fiery paws. While the Flam's and Electivire's type helped mitigate some of the damage, Gary saw his Pokémon grunt slightly from the sheer power of Pikachu's Electro Ball. Your Pokémon never did care for type matchups. Gary laughed. Quick thinking on your part too, Ash said in genuine praise. Given how close Pikachu was, dodging Electro Ball or using a more effective defense wouldn't have worked. Thus Gary did make the best of his situation. Thunder. Iron Tail. Pikachu sparked his cheeks and called down his mighty bolt of lightning from the sky with the sound of an explosive artillery round. Despite this, Gary and Electivire showed no fear, and the electric Pokémon swung up with his now metal tail and absorbed thunder. However, Electivire almost grunted upon landing, struggling to contain the explosive power in his tail. Incredible, Champion Gary's Electivire has completely absorbed thunder. Ash, come on. Misty pressed both hands into her face, but Brock didn't share her concern. Especially when he saw Ash and Pikachu's expressions. Great work, Electivire, now send it back with some extra love. Electivire filled his tail with additional power via Thunderbolt and then by swinging his Iron Tail, sent the enhanced bolt straight at Pikachu. Iron Tail, Pikachu. Pikachu leapt up and, without flinching, lashed out with his tail, perfectly absorbing the incoming electricity. Whoa, Misty yelped. I knew he had a plan. Delia cried. Pikachu, Electro Ball. Pikachu sent the collected energy back with an Electro Ball added, and Electivire felt sweat pour down his face. You can do it, Electivire. Iron Tail. Electivire caught the ever-growing electrical charge, but it took everything he had to contain the bursting power. Oh boy, it looks ready to burst. Morty peered closer with the others in immense interest. Add Thunderbolt, then send it back. Electivire looked incredibly relieved to expel the electricity, but Pikachu showed no hesitation. Iron Tail, again. How long are they going to keep this up? Misty groaned, sounding exhausted. No longer, Oak said while pointing to Gary, who grinned widely. Absorb this, ready Electivire. Gary threw his hand out and revealed a Z ring. Oh no, Misty yelped. A Z move, Brock added. Electivire and Gary made the same pose, and within moments, their Electrium Z took effect. Alolan G Electivire to bring forth Gigavolt Havoc via Thunderbolt. A Z move, ladies and gentlemen. This may prove too much for Champion Ash's Pikachu. Ash, do something. Misty barked. Yet despite all this, Ash merely smiled back confidently. Finally, Pikachu, Electro Ball, and Focus Punch. Pikachu hurled all of the collected electricity plus another Electro Ball straight into the approaching Gigavolt Havoc. Then began gathering his focus. Gary and Electivire's mouths dropped in disbelief when they saw the combined electricity make contact and utterly destroy Gigavolt Havoc. The result, a flash of light practically blinded all in the stadium and made many more gasp. Focus Punch. Electivire regained his sight just in time to see Pikachu leaping straight for his face. Fire Punch. Electivire tried to counter Pikachu, but the electric mouse hit him dead center in his face first. Electivire. The larger electric Pokémon stumbled for a moment, then collapsed flat on his back with swirled eyes. Electivire is unable to battle. An uproar of excited applause overtook the stadium as Pikachu landed. That's more like it, Misty shouted. Electivire return. Don't even worry about it, Electivire. Time to shine like the star you are, go Garchomp. Iris cried while hurling a Pokeball forward. Gar. Ash stood across from Iris in the Vertres Stadium battlefield. Unova CH. Ampion Iris has chosen Garchomp for her next Pokémon. Infernape, you've done enough. Return for now. Ash returned his still-conscious Infernape, who'd just defeated Iris's Excadrill. I'll admit you may have the lead, Ash. But this is where we turn things around. Garchomp here beat Chantal's entire team just last week. Iris proclaimed. Gar, is that so? Well then, I know who to challenge him with. I choose you, Garchomp. Gra. Ash's Garchomp roared even louder than Iris's and shook the ground upon landing. Just like that, Alolan champion Ash replies with his own Garchomp. Whoa, Garchomp versus Garchomp, Bianca cried while sitting in a private box with Sylvan, Stefan, and Delia. Ah, Ash, now we're talking. Iris beamed at the sight of another Garchomp, particularly when she saw how Ash's was bigger than hers. Let's go, Sand Tomb, Gar. Iris's Garchomp whipped up a thick tornado of coarse sand around Ash's Garchomp. Now, add Dragon Breath. Gar, Iris's Garchomp, P breathed a thick force of dragon energy into the tornado, which now closed in on its prisoner. Dig. Ash's Garchomp burrowed his way underground, completely avoiding the incoming tornado. And champion Ash's Garchomp masterfully evades. Quote, for now, I was hoping you'd do that, Ash. Bulldoze. Dragon Claw. Iris's Garchomp nearly slammed the ground with his foot, but just as the pads hovered an inch from the ground, Ash's Garchomp burst up and slashed his opponent with the super effective move. Garchomp. Dragon Claw. Iris kept her cool despite the quick turnaround, and Garchomp recovered. Gar. Iris's Garchomp surged forward and began a fierce melee against Ash's Garchomp, both dragons going at each other like master swordsmen in a duel. Gar. Gra. The crowd grew tense, in anticipation while watching both Garchomp slug it out. Iris, Ash, and Pikachu, by contrast, merely watched with confidence at their respective Garchomp. Keep it up, Garchomp. I know you can do it. Ash, however, merely took a deep breath. Huh, Iris thought she saw his eyes flash blue for a moment while Garchomp's did the same. Just like we trained, Garchomp. Pika. Gra. Ash's Garchomp renewed his assault, channeling his years of training with Daniel and Pokemon. The dragon's overwhelming skill and strength now came out unrestrained. Gra. Ash's Garchomp knocked Iris's Garchomp P's claws aside and delivered a punishing slash across his chest, hurling the smaller dragon backward. And champion Iris's Garchomp takes a hard blow. Garchomp. Gar. Iris's Pokemon stood back up and panted heavily, the lingering impact from Ash's Garchomp weighing down on him. I knew you would make us work for it, Ash, but I won't stop until I become a Dragon Master. Iris reached up for her crown, and upon closer inspection, Ash realized one of its jewels was, in fact, a keystone. A well-concealed piece of Garchompite around her Garchomp's neck glowed then enveloped him in a colorful sphere. Gar. Mega Garchomp shook the stands with his roar upon emerging from his Mega Evolution. Oh, she just made it interesting. Stefan said, how do you like that, Ash? Iris in her Mega Garchomp then gave crestfallen expressions when they saw Ash breathe a sigh of relief. You're relieved, Gar. Mega Garchomp thrashed about, clearly offended by this. You see, if you hadn't Mega evolved him, I couldn't do this without feeling guilty. Ash revealed his Mega Evolution rings and touched the right keystone inside. Iris, her Garchomp, and the audience all watched in awe as a piece of Garchompite hidden in a ring on one of Garchomp's right claws glowed. Grah! Ash's Mega Garchomp nearly knocked a few spectators over when he emerged from the colorful sphere. Well, folks, you're getting your money's worth today. A Mega Garchomp showdown. Oh Ash. Sylvan shook his head with a big smile. I should have known. Iris's fiery determination grew, though in good spirit. Garchomp. Dragon Rush. Dragon Pulse. Iris's Mega Garchomp flew straight for Ash's with a veil of dragon energy around him. In response, Ash's Mega Garchomp blasted him with a torrent of pure dragon power. Fight through him. You can do it. Despite Iris's support, ulted and flew backward, barely catching himself. So much power, it looks like we'll need to get creative. Garchomp. Use Sand Tomb. Gar. Ash and his Mega Garchomp observed 3 incoming sand tornadoes carefully. He's not using Dig again? Bianca asked. No, Iris clearly wants him to. Garchomp. Use Dragon Pulse. Grah. Mega Garchomp blasted his way through the center tornado, earning a wide smile from Iris. Outrage. Draco Meteor. Iris's Mega Garchomp channeled a barrage of dragon energy, but at the last moment, Ash's Mega Garchomp flew down at a sharp angle until he was directly under Iris's. Grah. Ash's Mega Garchomp blasted his opponent with a single burst of energy that quickly exploded into a shower of meteors, carrying Mega Garchomp high into the air. Garchomp. Within moments, he landed in front of Iris, unconscious, and reverted to normal form. Champion Iris's Garchomp is unable to battle. The audience let out booming applause as Ash's Mega Garchomp landed in front of him. To think you never brought him along with us. Iris pouted, though in a non-serious manner while returning Garchomp. How was I supposed to know I'd find an aspiring Dragon Master in Unova? Ash laughed. Not an aspiring master, the aspiring master. Let's give our audience a show they'll never forget. Go, Metagross. Steven Stone hurled his next Pokeball forward, releasing the colossal shiny Metagross inside. Ash stood adjacent to Steven in the Evergrande City Stadium. Gross. And Hoenn Chom. Pion Steven Stone lets out his ace Metagross. Metagross, now we're talking. That's enough for now, Torkoal. Ash returned his Fire Tortoise, who'd just overcome Steven's Claydol. I choose you, Sceptile. Tile. Sceptile performed a front flip and landed in front of Ash, fist down on the ground. Alolan champion Ash brings out his Sceptile. Whoa, look how big Sceptile's gotten. Max cried. He sat on the edge of his seat in a private box with a Trico on his shoulder. Beside him rested May, Sawyer, and Delia. Metagross used Flash Cannon, Agility and Leaf Blade. Gross. Metagross let loose one Flash Cannon after another, and each one almost left a crater in the ground upon impact. However, despite his size, Sceptile moved like an acrobat, dodging and evading one Flash Cannon after the other. That was until he pivoted and leapt directly towards Metagross, using his arm blades to slice clean through the white energy beam. Whoa, did he cut apart Flash Cannon? May almost gasped, though in hindsight, she should have expected nothing less from Ash. Iron Defense. Metagross coated himself in more iron, but even with this and his natural strength against grass-type moves, Steven saw his Metagross shiver when Leaf Blade made impact. I never knew his Sceptile was so strong, Sawyer said in awe as he and his Sceptile watched them. Meteor Mash. Iron Tail. Tile. Sceptile KIC. Ked off Metagross and then parried the incoming blows with his tail. It's a fierce matchup, folks. Metagross has the advantage in his type, but Sceptile's giving him a run for his money. Keep it up, Sceptile. May, Sawyer, and Max cried. Both Pokemon now faced each other down again, earning competitive smiles from Steven and Ash. I heard the rumors Daniel took you in as his pupil. Tell me, is there any truth to them? I'm here to battle you, Steven. But if you really want to know, yes. Steven nodded. Perfect. If I overcome you, he'll undoubtedly accept my challenge. Steven touched a keystone on the lapel of his jacket, and within moments, his Metagross underwent Mega Evolution. Gross. And Hoenn champion Steven takes it to the next level with Mega Evolution. Ash and Sceptile didn't immediately react, and Steven patiently waited. Come on, don't hold back on me. Ash smiled again with Sceptile. If you insist. Let's go, Sceptile. Tile. Ash touched his keystone and watched Sceptile take his Mega Evolved form. Ah, Mega Evolution is so cool. One day you'll Mega Evolve too, Trico. Max declared. Tree. Ice Punch. Iron Tail. Mega Sceptile backflipped away from Mega Metagross's first two arms, then knocked the other two back with his metal tail. This continued for a minute or two, and Mega Metagross let loose a series of ice punches, which Mega Sceptile dodged or blocked with Iron Tail. After another successful parry, Mega Sceptile landed a punishing Iron Tail across Metagross's face. Gross. Double Team. A dozen copies of Mega Sceptile appeared around Mega Metagross. Bullet Punch. Quickly, Mega Metagross smashed each one at top speed, desperately hoping to find the real one. Focus Blast. The real Mega Sceptile surged forward and unleashed his concentrated fighting power into Mega Metagross's side, flipping him over. Metagross. Metagross's eyes swirled, and he reverted to his normal form. Metagross is unable to battle. Ha, I knew Mega Sceptile had it. Max proclaimed. Right, that's why you were shaking. May teased, making Max turn slightly pale. I wasn't shaking. Metagross returned. So, you have become too much for me, Ash. I doubt I'd stand a chance against Daniel. And I'm starting to wonder if I'll overcome Professor Birch's son. Don't tell me you're giving up now, Steven. You're a champion. Ash didn't use a mocking tone but an inspiring one. Pika. Tile. Steven smiled back and nodded. Yes, you're right, we can only keep trying out best. Steven reached for his next Pokeball. If you think you're the only one who's gotten stronger since our last battle, then you're sadly mistaken. Charizard, let's burn him to a crisp. Leon brought his Charizard back out of his shining Pokeball, now in Gigantamaxed form. Ash S.'d in the exact same spot in Winden Stadium he had 5 years earlier and, once more, faced down Leon. Growl. Leon's Gigantamax Charizard sent shockwaves across the stadium when he landed and quickly let out a thunderous roar. And Galar champion Leon Gigantamaxes his Charizard. But will this turn things around for him? Ash's Charizard stood in front of him and huffed out slightly as he looked up at Leon's Gigantamaxed Pokemon. By this point, he'd suffered a harsh beating from Ash's Charizard and was on the ropes. We won't stop until Charizard is the strongest in the world. If yours has trained under Daniel's, then once we win, he'll have no choice but to face us. Steven said something similar. I suppose we'll find out. Ready Charizard, Pika, Growl. Ash touched his Keisto, neigh and watched a colorful sphere form around Charizard. Inside a private box, Go sat with Chloe and Delia with great anticipation. Oh, this is it. Ash has never revealed what form his Mega Charizard takes. Only Daniel Ryan knows. Go cried with his arms raised. And Serena, Chloe giggled, making Go sweat drop a little. Her too. While Ash had used his Charizard in numerous battles defending his title as Alolan champion, he'd never Mega Evolved him in an official match before. Leon, his Charizard, and the audience all patiently waited for what felt like an eternity, though in reality, it was only a matter of moments. Then, finally, Charizard emerged as Mega Charizard Z. Growl. Charizard Z's roar somehow surpassed even the Gigantamax Charizards. And Alolan champion Ash has leveled the playing field by Mega Evolving his Charizard. Leon, however, looked completely fired up. Yes, Z, the same as Daniel's, just like I was hoping for. You seem anxious to face Daniel despite how our last battle ended. Pika. Leon couldn't help but laugh. True enough, my apologies. You're absolutely right, I'm battling you right now, and we still have a score to settle. Charizard, use Max Lightning. The Gigantamaxed Pokemon unleashed a colossal bolt of electricity into the air, which soon grew into a series of storm clouds covering the entire battlefield. Charizard, use Inferno. Charizard Z's tail flame nearly burst, and he flew as fast as Pikachu ran, evading 2 of the lightning bolts and then blasting a third apart with a small ocean of fire. This continued as Charizard Z evolved. More lightning bolts and blasted T Inferno as easily as a regular Charizard would flamethrower. Such power. Looks like we'll need to try something different. Charizard Max Airstream. Growl. Leon's Charizard slammed his fiery wings together and brought forth an enormous wind tunnel straight for Charizard Z. Ride the wind, Charizard, and use Dragon Pulse. Charizard Z gave the audience quite a show as he glided through the incoming cyclone perfectly and then emerged directly over the Gigantamax Charizard. Growl. Charizard Z blasted an incredible torrent of pure dragon energy directly into Leon's Charizard. Despite his titanic size, the Charizard stumbled backward, shaking the entire stadium with each step. Come on, Charizard, we can do this. Max Knuckle. Gigantamax Charizard snarled and nearly sent out shockwaves when he hurled both fists hurtling towards Charizard Z. Dragon Claw. Charizard Z flew in fearlessly, leaving the audience in awe as he flew in, claws glowing with a green aura. No way, Go muttered. Only Delia and Leon saw Ash's eyes flash blue for a moment, Charizard Z's too. When the Charizard made contact, Leon's felt his max attacks thrown back with such power that he struggled to keep his fists balled from the pain. Look at them go, Chloe gasped. I know, Delia beamed. Despite his Charizard moving back again, Leon remained determined. It all comes down to this, G-Max Wildfire. Blast Burn. The audience could only watch in awe as Gigantamax Charizard channeled his most powerful move and opened his jaws to unleash the fiery attack. However, Charizard Z acted. First, his tail flame erupted as he flew in and let loose a concussive barrage of fire that hit G-Max Wildfire and exploded like a volcano would, covering the entire battlefield in black soot. Charizard. Leon wailed. When the ash finally cleared, he saw his partner on his stomach, pitch black with swirled eyes. Growl. Leon's Charizard moaned, now back in his base form. Galar champion Leon's Charizard is unable to battle. Go and Chloe led the audience in a similar eruption of applause. Ash readied himself to commend Charizard Z when he flew down and practically knocked him over. Growl. Charizard Z exclaimed while licking Ash's face, knowing that by defeating Leon's Charizard, there was only one left to truly prove himself against. However, Ash and Pikachu soon thought about another Charizard other than Leon's or Daniel's, one they'd had to face soon, but he wouldn't be his Charizard's opponent. Leon took a deep breath and returned his partner. You did everything you could, Charizard, and I'm proud of you. Leon looked back at Ash. I should have known your Charizard would prove so formidable. You've become so strong, but we're not backing down now, Alon proclaimed while standing across from Ash in the Lumio Stadium, precisely where both young men stood years earlier. Interestingly enough, they wielded the same Pokémon, with Alon's Charizard before him and Ash's Greninja in front of him. Keep it up, Ash, Bonnie exclaimed, full of enthusiasm as she saw with Clemont, Shauna, Tierno, Trevor, Marin, Diantha, Sycamore, and Delia. If Ash and Greninja keep this up, they're going to win, Trevor cried. Don't forget, Alon hasn't pulled out his trump card yet, Clemont reminded them. Diantha nodded. Don't underestimate Alon. That was my mistake. Alon no longer wore his old outfit but instead had a cape jacket with a black crown on his head. Dark King Alon, champion of Kalos, doesn't look phased even with Alolan champion Ash. Greninja pushing him back into a corner. Charizard, we beat them before. We can do it again. Growl, give us everything you have, Alon. Otherwise, victory is meaningless. Pika, Gray, Alon and his Charizard smiled widely. You asked for it, let's go, Mega Evolution. Alon touched his keystone, and within moments, Charizard emerged as Mega Charizard X. Growl, and the Dark King's true paladin has revealed himself. Ash and Greninja didn't flinch, nor did their previous battle with Alon in that very stadium even enter their minds. I know you've trained with Daniel Ryan and his Charizard. He chose you and your Charizard over us. Alon almost sounded resentful for a brief moment, though he hid it well with a growing smile. Once we win here, he'll take us as his students. Growl, Charizard X roared, looking even larger and fiercer than he had years earlier. Finally, now the real battle begins. Ash cried while raising his fist. Pika, come on then, we won't settle for anything less than your best. Growl, Ash and Greninja didn't need to say a word or even look at each other. Both took a deep breath, and their eyes flashed blue together, and both raised their right hand together in a fist. Ah, here he comes, Bonnie cried with bursting excitement. Clemont and the others felt much the same and sat on the edge of their seats as a veil of water enveloped him for an extremely long few moments. Let's go. The veil burst apart, revealing a transformed Ash Greninja. And Champion Ash reveals his own trump card. Ash Greninja, Bonnie screamed alongside countless audience members. However, as Clemont and Sycamore peered closer, they noticed he didn't look quite the same from the last time they'd seen him. Hold on, Clemont adjusted his glasses. Alon and Charizard X looked equally astounded. Ash Greninja's eyes, posture, and head coloration all mirrored what they had years earlier. However, this time there were more changes. For one, Ash Greninja looked almost a foot taller with greater muscle, not quite like a Machamp, but more athletic. Additionally, parts of his skin around the arms, legs, and chest hardened into a pseudo-armor, giving Ash Greninja an almost samurai appearance more so than his previous Ninja one. Even the glowing water shuriken on his back now moved to his waist and resembled swords more than shurikens. Whoa, he looks different, Tierno muttered. He's so cool. Trevor nearly dropped his camera and frantically took as many pictures as possible. Indeed, how interesting. Diantha had hoped to glimpse Ash Greninja when she faced Ash in Alola late the previous year, but alas, Ash hadn't used him. Yet seeing him now was well worth the wait. Alon quickly regained his composure and smiled. Now we're talking. Charizard Thunder Punch. Growl. Charizard X flew even faster than he had years earlier, his claws surging with electricity. Double Team and Water Shuriken. Ash Greninja held his hand up and generated 2 copies of himself. All 3 leapt up over 10 feet into the air before hurling a barrage of shuriken-shaped water bursts. Steel Wing, aim for the right Greninja. Growl. Charizard X aided his wings in metal and used them as an effective shield against most of the incoming shurikens, destroying the rest with Thunder Punch as he closed on the rightmost Greninja. No way, Tierno yelled when he saw the other 2 Greninja vanish. He knew that was the real Greninja. How? Shauna asked. Don't forget how skilled Alon and his Charizard are. Clemont reminded the others. Indeed, E and Charizard already beat Ash and Greninja before, not to mention Diantha. Sycamore added, earning a nod from Diantha. Losing her position as champion to Elan 2 years earlier hadn't been easy for her. It was in that very stadium that Elan's Charizard X soundly defeated her Mega Gardevoir. Still, she respected him immensely and moved on with her life and acting career. Dark King Elan's Charizard picks the right Greninja, the announcer shouted. Charizard X held both fists out, ready to hit Ash Greninja with Thunder Punch. However, the trainer and Pokémon remained unafraid. Hydro Pump, Steel Wing. Charizard X barely covered himself from the cannon-like water jet, halting him in midair. The recoil similarly brought Ash Greninja safely back to the ground. Dragon Pulse. Charizard. Road X flew up higher and discharged a series of Dragon Pulses which came down almost like a makeshift Draco meteor, causing the arena to tremble. Despite this, Ash Greninja sped across the field, masterfully Hydro Pump. Thunder Punch. Charizard X very narrowly avoided Ash Greninja's Hydro Pump and shot straight for him like a heat-seeking missile. Night Slash. Ash Greninja drew the watery blades around his arms like a pair of swords which soon blackened with a dark aura. Growl. Here it comes, folks. The clash. Bonnie held Dedenne tightly, and Shauna similarly grabbed Clement's hand, causing him to turn bright red and shake. Diantha and Sycamore similarly watched closely as Tierno and Trevor bit their fingernails. Charizard X thrust both fists out, only for Ash Greninja to slash him twice across the arms and then across the stomach, moving far too fast for Thunder Punch and similarly knocking the blows aside. Growl. Charizard X grunted. Ash Greninja's moves not only proved swift but heavy too. Elan noticed this and instantly took action. Dragon Claw. Growl. Charizard X quickly shifted moves and successfully began parrying Ash Greninja's night slashes, though with great difficulty. And Dark King Elan evens things out again. I don't get it. Why did he switch to Dragon Claw? Thunder Punch is more effective. Shauna wondered. True, but Dragon Claw is also faster. Elan saw Ash Greninja's Night Slash moves too swiftly for him to land a blow with Thunder Punch and corrected. Diantha said, sounding impressed. It's just like last time. Tierno muttered. No, it's not, look. Clemont noticed sweat forming on Charizard X's head and neck in harsh endeavor as he struggled to keep up with Ash Greninja as he hadn't in their last battle. Dragon Rush. Dark Pulse. Growl. Had Ash Greninja been in his base form, Charizard X would have hit him with the full force of Dragon Rush. Instead, Ash Greninja acrobatically leapt over him and thrust both hands forward, hitting him with Dark Pulse. Growl. Charizard. Elan cried. Ah, Elan, don't give up. Marin cried from her seat with Chespin in her lap. And Dark King Elan is pushed back into AC. Orner against Alolan champion Ash's very unique Greninja. The audience found itself split, with some cheering louder for Ash and the others frightened for Elan. It now became perfectly clear to Eli, and his Charizard that the Ash Greninja they'd defeated years ago was only an incomplete form of something much more. The Ash Greninja before them reached his true potential and perfected their bond. I was afraid of this, Ash. I always wondered what more your Greninja had in store for us if we ever battled again. I wonder now if this came more from you or Daniel's training. Probably a little of both. But Charizard and I also have an unbreakable bond. Once we train with Daniel, we'll master that bond like you have, and Charizard will someday overcome Daniel's. Growl. Charizard X stood tall and breathed blue fire into the air, backing up Elan's words with a fiery passion. Ash and Pikachu smiled back. I'd love for my Charizard to face yours one day. But this fight is Greninja's. Pika. Elan tightened his fist and took a deep breath. It all comes down to this. Let's go for broke, Charizard. Blast Burn. Growl. Ash and Ash Greninja remembered that move, the one that knocked them out of the Lumiose conference. Even so, they didn't falter. Ready. Gray. Hydro Pump and Water Shuriken. Ash Greninja hurled 6 water shurikens into the approaching Blast Burn, slowing it down but not stopping it. This occurred when Ash Greninja hit the concussive blast with Hydro Pump, detonating the explosion halfway between both Pokémon. Night Slash. Dragon Claw. Charizard X ready. D himself but only saw the flash of Ash Greninja as he emerged from over the explosion. Ash Greninja performed a single cross slash and landed behind Charizard X, sheathing his blades as a samurai would. Charizard. Elan muttered, his face almost going pale. Charizard X collapsed onto his stomach, reverting to a normal Charizard with swirled eyes. Charizard is unable to battle. An explosion of applause overcame the audience. Delia and Ash's friends in particular. He did it. They did it. Greninja. Ash started, but Ash Greninja was already upon him, wrapping both arms around his trainer tightly. No one but Pikachu saw the single tear escape Ash Greninja's eye. Alon snapped out of his trance and slowly approached Charizard. Are you okay? Growl. Alon helped his partner up and provided some comfort. We did all we could. I'm proud of you. Charizard looked immensely disappointed, at least until he saw Ash and Ash Greninja over them, offering their hands. With a renewed smile, the trainer and Pokémon took them. I was afraid this might happen if we ever battled again. It looks like our ambitions for Daniel will have to wait. You're still the Dark King, Alon. Don't forget that. And I won't forget this battle either, Ash. The next time we meet, things will be different. That's a promise. Ash smiled back with Pikachu and Ash Greninja. We can't wait. If you think you're beating me today, Ash, you'll have to wait a lot longer. Cynthia cried while hurling her sixth and final Pokeball forward. Gruu. Her Lucario roared with both paws raised. And Sinnoh-cha. Empion Cynthia has chosen Lucario as her final Pokémon. Lucario, perfect. Torterra return. Ash's Torterra looked slightly relieved he wouldn't have to fight Lucario, having just won a hard-fought victory over Cynthia's Garchomp. Ash and Pikachu stared at Ash's next Pokeball, both standing across from Cynthia in the Lily of the Valley Stadium in Sinnoh. This is it, one more battle, let's go for broke. I choose you, Lucario. Gruu. Ash's Lucario came out to roaring applause and took a fighting stance opposing Cynthia's Lucario. Both fighting Pokémon gave each other spirited but fiercely competitive looks that mirrored their trainers. It all comes down to this, ladies and gentlemen. Sinnoh champion Cynthia's Lucario vs. Alolan champion Ash's Lucario. Come on, Ash, this is it. Dawn cried at the top of her lungs. She stood out of her seat beside Delia and Barry in a private box. I can't believe how far he's come. Delia beamed with her hands clasped together. Don't let up now, Ash. Barry added. Unknown to Ash, another figure from his past watched from a secluded seat. Paul kept his arms crossed, and eyes narrowed as he watched Ash face Cynthia. Ash, don't think you've got the advantage here. You're not the only one who's trained with Daniel. Cynthia took a deep breath, and Ash watched her eyes glow blue at the same time her Lucario's did. Perfect, then this will be the ultimate test. Gruu. Ash and Lucario's eyes flashed blue. Both trainers took a fighting stance which their Lucarios mirrored. Let's go, Ash and Cynthia cried in unison. Both Lucario raced towards each other with similar running patterns. Power up punch. Ash and Cynthia both let loose what the audience could only describe as shadow fighting, each striking the air with what looked like fierce martial arts. However, this was nothing, as the two Lucario mirrored their respective trainer perfectly and began an intense match, striking and blocking the other's blow. This is extreme, ladies and gentlemen. The audience remained on the edge of their seats, watching the Lucarios go at each other like legendary martial artists, neither able to land a precise blow. Aura Sphere. Gruu. Lucario and Lucario both launched their attacks at the same time, perfectly canceling the other out. Geez, they're evenly matched. Barry groaned. No, they're not. Delia said. Extreme speed. Aura Sphere. Ash's counter caught Cynthia and the audience off guard. Gruu. Ash and Lucario thrust their hands down when Cynthia's Lucario came inches from him. Look, Dawn saw a burst of aura hit the ground in front of Lucario, knocking Cynthia's off balance. Power up punch. Gruu. The momentary distraction was all Lucario needed, and he delivered a crushing punch to his opponent's face, mirroring a striking motion Ash made. And Champion Ash lands a direct hit. Ha, plus, with that, his attack will rise too. Barry laughed. Cynthia nodded with respect. Well, it any longer, shall we? I thought you'd never ask. Ash and Cynthia both touched their keystones at the same time. Ash and Cynthia's Lucario cried out in pure excitement when colorful spheres enveloped them, and moments later, they emerged as Mega Lucario. Gruu. Gruu. This has truly become a show, folks. Mega Lucario vs. Mega Lucario. Come on then, we're waiting. Cynthia jested. You asked for it. Legs go. Close combat. Close combat. A clash of Mega Lucarios shook the stadium to the core, both striking with speed and power unseen by most of the audience. Just like before, their trainers RMED the same motions as if fighting each other, and neither Mega Lucario landed a decisive blow. Aura Sphere. Once more, the moves cancelled each other out, or so Cynthia thought at first. Upon closer inspection, she realized that the way Ash's Lucario used his intentionally pushed him back a few feet. Focus punch, you think I'll fall into that trap? Aura Sphere, Cynthia's Mega Lucario Unlia, shed not one but 3 concentrated Aura Spheres at Ash's Mega Lucario. Now, Pika, Gruu, the world seemed to slow down around Cynthia and her Mega Lucario when they saw Ash's Mega Lucario hurl himself forward and punch through all 3 Aura Spheres with one fist and then perform an uppercut with the other. He'd prepared a focus punch in both paws. Mega Lucario didn't even have time to Eva. Diane took the crushing blow straight to the jaw. Lucario. Cynthia's Lucario hit the ground hard in front of her, forced back into his base form with swirled eyes. Sinnoh champion Cynthia's Lucario is unable to battle. The winner is Alolan champion Ash. Like an erupting volcano, the stadium went off in applause that could have been heard for miles. Dawn and Barry both lost control and hugged Delia together out of pure reflex. Not that she minded. Oh, I'm so proud of him. Delia teared up. We did it, Lucario, we did it. Pika, Gruu, Mega Lucario raced over and almost knocked Ash onto the ground as he leapt into his arms. Cynthia exhaled but forced a smile as she returned her Lucario. Well done, Lucario. Ash, Pikachu, and Mega Lucario approached her. Cynthia, that was awesome. I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. I don't see why not. This is a landmark day. First Gary, then Iris, Steven, Leon, Alon, and now me. It only then hit Ash that she was right. All of the regional champions. Cynthia nodded. That leaves just one opponent left. Both looked up at another private box where Daniel sat beside his team, a baby boy with his eyes and Cynthia's blonde hair in the Kaiser's lap. Ash's eyes met Daniel's, and Pikachu saw true angst in his trainer's eyes for the first time in years. Daniel, Ash muttered. Miles away, in Jubilife City, the match was broadcast on TV screens across the city, including one inside the contest hall. Standing there among the other coordinators rested none other than Serena, who held both hands over her heart. Ash, she muttered, the realization that he too was in Sinnoh, only now dawning on her after such a heart-pounding match. The young woman looked back at the doorway with a conflicted expression. Performer Serena, you're up, a contest hall employee shouted. Serena didn't move for a moment. She sighed, following him down the hall, but not without giving a final longing gaze back at the television. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you all are enjoyed this video. If you do, please leave a like, share and subscribe. Also don't forget to support author of this fanfic. So let's end this video here. Until then, see you in next video. While the harsh